people? This is, of course, Dr. Lariat, aka Filthy Tom Yum, aka Mahal Kita 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 Kita, aka the Eugene Blaster, aka, the Mog Face Gremlin, aka Spliff Tannen, aka Barmello Hayes, aka the Bougie Man, aka Yo soy leche cero, aka Great O'John, aka Tahoe Kea, aka Terry Blunt, and I'm here. This is, of course, State of Wrestling,
Short.
and you know, State of Wrestling, and I am going to take a victory lap because on the
Hey
first
guys, my
episode,
phone's about to die. I'm gonna try to come back on here on my iPad. Okay.
yeah, no problem. You just heard
Okay.
BJ Bethel right now.
Can you?
We
Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No worries.
I'll reset. I'll reset.
Yaki. And you can record this if you want. Like I was saying, so there's a famous person in Puerto Rico una famosa personage called La Comay, who's retired, who's famous for having the skinny, for being the one with all the rumors and predicting the future. And I think, Doc, we need to take a victory lap, right? We should call ourselves
Oh
Le
my!
Los Comay, because I think, funny enough, we were talking about this beforehand. We had a bunch of things correct. Like we said, and we're gonna go over it, but like a lot of the things that we talked about this entire thing, funnily enough, like we were making some assumptions, and I think a lot of them were right. So like tenemos los poderes psíquicos.
Oh
Estamos como la
man!
línea, like are you familiar with Walter Mercado, Doc?
See,
Yes, Walter aquí con los poderes psíquicos, diciéndole la verdad a todos ustedes, a todos, porque vengo con mis poderes, niños. Sorry, I'm a
oh
any Puerto Rican,
man!
anybody who was watching Latino TV like 20 years ago knows when I'm like, Walter.
Oh
Like, yes.
man! I remember this Latino like sort of uh
Liberace.
yeah, Liberace. Yeah, that's the guy,
Yeah,
right? That's the guy,
yeah, that's
and
the
he's
guy.
like talking into the thing. I
El
so
psíquico.
Man, we've been talking so much about this, and it's great to see like guys like Thurston. I've been talking to Dave. Like I shouted Dave and John and Thurston out on X earlier. Like, but a lot of stuff that we've talked about, whether it be like, like Netflix coming in with the cash deal, whether it be the split off of Versailles, sort of setting up like. With the WBD and them trying to diversify and split
I mean,
off into two companies.
I think
The
the thing that we said from the beginning, right? So I think the thing that we said from the beginning is that it's all coming from the culture of. I mean, I think there was always a plan. I think Southlaw was always working towards Comcast. I think I'm gonna wait for BJ because I got some stuff I want to drop and run it by him. But like when he comes back, I'm gonna drop by him. But like he was always dropping that. And it made sense. They were always splitting off the linear companies to split off the death, which is a very kind of recognizable move to
yeah,
me. I've been in that corporate environment. And they Paramount came in kind of like as a late bidder, and Paramount coming in, you know, Zaslav very publicly in the trades told them off multiple times, like through rumors, through blinds, through articles. You could read between the lines, and they never wanted to sell to them. Like and most they wanted to sell CNN to them overpriced, but they never wanted it, and it was never in the plans. Netflix made a lot more sense because Netflix basically steps into the role that Comcast was, and I have some theories around that I'll share later. But like, effectively, like it's actually gotten to the point now, which if you people are following the news, I'm gonna like we talked a little bit about the Saudi Wealth Fund, and we said, and I said at the time, hey, the Saudi Wealth Fund ran out of money, right? The Saudi Wealth
yeah,
Fund is they have all this money they have for oil, and they're trying to buy all these things to generate cash. It's in general a good idea. These wealth funds that countries have, they buy things that generate cash so that they can keep the country long term after the oil runs out. So that's what the Saudis were doing. But the problem is the Saudis are spending like Saudi princes, right? And so they
yeah,
had this project called The Line, which is one of the craziest engineering projects I've ever seen. It's like imagine an engineering project conceived by a 5-year-old who has no concept of how things actually work. Original civil engineering, and like they poured billions of dollars down that, and they bought a bunch of things that like aren't really generating. So like really, the hidden side of the Paramount story is that the Saudis came in with the money, but because they're kind of looking for stuff that actually generates cash. But the Saudi wealth fund has actually been running out of cash, and now there's stories coming out just the last couple of days that the
It's
line
dead.
is dead. Right, so
It's
that
dead.
kind of tells you that like the Saudi wealth fund doesn't have a lot of liquid assets around, and they were kind of one of the key partners in the whole Paramount thing. So Paramount really is purchasing; they really are moving more towards a leveraged buyout, and so really the quality of the offer that Paramount has made has like gotten worse by the day and by the hour. Whereas the Netflix offer, really, they're just kind of like, they're just kind of stunned. Yeah, we're going to give you just a cash only offer now, right? So
Yeah,
everything
because
about yeah,
one of the things that broke, because I think last time we talked was like my birthday, but one of the things that broke on January 7th was Warner Brothers Discovery Board of Directors unanimously recommends that the shareholders reject the amended Paramount offer because it was deemed like it wasn't like an actual offer. Like you were talking about, it was
as I
one
said, the
something made on
financing, the
debt.
financing, the financing is bogus. Like Jared kind of bailed. The Saudis don't have the cash, and it's an offer based on kind of like financial manipulation. Whereas Netflix is coming in with like, cold hard cash. Here's the money, right? And again, like we can like it also again it makes a lot of sense from a synergy perspective. The same reason they wanted to merge with Comcast, but taken up to like 100. And what I mean by that is like effectively Netflix wants the IP and they want the studio and they want the perma content, the evergreen content they can put on their channel, right? And
Yeah,
Warner basically wants to have like the mega distribution network and to focus on creating the IP and generating money. And this is an incredible partnership for them because for exactly the same reason why Ted Turner bought Warner and bought the Warner catalog and bought the Warner cartoons so that he could put it on his networks and because it was an incredible fit for his distribution network. It's the exact same play that Netflix is doing. It's like, yeah, it makes sense for them. It makes sense for Warner because it basically gives them like a distribution arm and they can basically kind of start like moving maybe post theater maybe or like whatever the hell that's going to be after. And it's kind of like a really smart, really good fit across the board for them. And again, like HBO on Netflix is like like HBO is like the premium brand in the streaming space, and then Netflix can be like the lower brand, but like you've got access to this catalog. It's a really good kind of powerful synergy. And again, I think the reason we started talking about the story is I still think that like given that the tendency for Netflix and the tendency for Warner is they want to own the IP. Doc, would they want to be in business with WWE, who overcharges and kind of screws their partners and doesn't sell the IP? Or do they want to be in business with AEW, which they own a share of and has been an incredible partner?
I
Right? Now,
imagine. I imagine all this rejiggering of like the corporate structure when when they absorbed Warner Brothers Discovery, it's gonna like kind of come to light a bunch of things that they have deals with, such as the WWE deal, which is a distribution deal that we know they have a hard out at 5 years. They could do a hard out of 5 years, but we do not know anything about if they come to a of cutting that deal and paying out like shorting that deal of because
I mean,
Netflix is known to cancel projects like early. They cancel
I
things all
think
the time.
ultimately, as I said, I think AEW makes more to me. AEW makes more sense if you're Netflix and Warner. And again, I think this is part of the. I'm a little mad. Like at one point, we're like, why didn't TK offer our ROH to like an AMC type of company and do the same kind of deal and they undercut it with like a better product? But I think ultimately, I think that he's playing the game of I want to be partners with Warner and Netflix, right, long term. That's
Yeah.
kind of where like my bread is buttered and like being a good partner and like being that. And I think that's kind of they've done a good job also of kind of integrating themselves into the kind of the world of wrestling, right? So I think that actually like has some potential there to kind of like how you tie things in. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my take on how that's. But it's going to be interesting how that plays out. There's a whole. I mean, like the next time we talk, I am going to get into the ESPN deal again and the WWE deal because there's some really interesting things happening there. WrestleMania is coming up, and did you know that I've been saying for a while that
This
Roman
might
Reigns
be.
is not going the
He might not be
the
booked.
contract negotiation for Roman Reigns is not going to be pretty because here's why. I mean, like there's rumors already coming out that like his contract is up post Mania. Supposedly it's kind of spiked the booking. So there's talk about putting him against Cody, him against Drew as the main and rest, and that seems to have been scratched because it does seem like there's and we're 90 days out, maybe 100 days out from Roman Reigns' contract being up, and there's no talk about a renewal. That's weird. And like the rumors
Hey,
I've seen is that like Roman might take his ball and go home. And again, the reason I was kind of like speculating on this is I was basically, again, what is the behavior of TKO when it comes to guys who are getting paid like main eventers but are not being booked in main events? What do? They cut him, right? They don't resign him. They're
yeah.
TKO just has like they're like
We're talking
they have
about, of course, Ngannou. We're talking about John Bones Jones. We're
we're
talking
talking
about
about
these level
Conor
guys.
McGregor.
Conor
I mean,
McGregor,
like
like,
they did it to Ronda too. I mean, like we have like TKO will I cannot see like one thing that people haven't realized is Roman Reigns has not worked a singles main event since WrestleMania 40. Right, he
yeah,
worked the Cody match, lost, and he's not like
PLE
and
main event. His
they
last main event was the Netflix debut where he got the Ula Fala from Solo Sikoa. That's his
was
last main event in general. Like,
Yeah, but
that,
they haven't pulled the trigger on him. So like people are
no,
like, oh no, he doesn't want to work. Like fuck, this isn't what he want. Like keep in mind that WWE went out and got AJ. Like AJ Lee, they went and called AJ Lee. They went and like broke Brock Lesnar out of mothballs.
hey,
They've tried to.
Ar-
They've had situations where they needed
Arturo,
Raw.
Arturo, these big money contracts. Okay, so you have the greatest wrestler, who you say is the greatest wrestler of all time in America, who's volunteering 226 dates, and you tell him, no, well, we only need you for like 90 dates, and so this is their behavior. This is TKO behavior. This is the disrespect that John Cena got, where he didn't even get a speech. He didn't get to say anything. He got to look at a video of himself.
Well, I mean, like again, I think that the thing is, I don't think it's gonna be like an interesting, really interesting WrestleMania period
Yeah.
because I think that like one, we've talked about how that's gonna disappear on ESPN, but two, the Roman thing and how this is all playing out already with like the Drew beating Cody and how that's gonna go. I think it's gonna be really interesting, and I think some people are gonna be like the Samoans all get really salty, right? So we're gonna hear about it, right? So I think we're
So
already seeing some rumbling, but
yeah,
we're gonna see some
oh
things. I think.
man, I want to say this too, to bring this to like the Samoans thing, right? So 1996, Yokozuna is worked WrestleMania, like I think in openers. Uh, Fatu isn't working. They fire Samu. They don't have any Samoans on the card except for this is WrestleMania 12, right? So during this time, WrestleMania 12 up to like WrestleMania, the only Samoan that they really have, I guess, is Fatu as the Sultan and The Rock. And so we have this whole thing of Yokozuna feeling disrespected by WWE. And Yokozuna was fielding offers from WCW at the time, and we're talking about
BJ,
the Samoans and WWE have like this relationship.
to give you some context, some rumors have come out, and I've been talking about this for a while. But Roman's contract apparently is up after WrestleMania, right?
Yeah,
And I've been saying for a while that TKO, when they have somebody that gets paid like a main eventer that doesn't work main events, they don't
want to pay them anymore.
yeah.
They don't want to pay him anymore.
Francis
So like
Ngannou, Conor McGregor, John Bones Jones, Ronda
it looks
Rousey.
like the plan might have been Roman Cody, but it looks like it's fallen through for WrestleMania. And it looks like there's people talking about like maybe Roman taking his ball and going home like Becky did for a while. And I've been on the record saying that I suspect that they're going to ask Roman to take a pay cut or not even offer him a contract. Because again, the way TKO works is if you're not an earner, you're not getting a deal, right?
Yeah.
And the behavior of them is they have not booked Roman in a singles main event on pay-per-view since WrestleMania 40. right?
Yeah.
So
And I was bringing up Yokozuna because in like '97, I think that's when his contract lapsed, and he was fielding offers from WCW. And like I think it was '96, and they were talking about him being like the fourth or fifth man for the NWO. And he was thinking about bringing Samu, bringing Rikishi, bringing basically all the cousins with him to WCW. And because if they get disrespected, they're gonna roll deep because this is a family business.
yeah,
To
the like we'll start hearing about like my take is like we're like 100 days out, like 90 days, 100 days. We're close to about 90 days out from Mania. I think this Mania season is going to be like a mess for them because of the whole ESPN deal. But I think the Roman thing is hanging over because it already looks like they're kind of pivoting off whatever they're going to do with him.
Yeah.
And again, it's 100 days out. Think about the other guys whose contract was coming up. They all got extended, right? So Cody got extended. Owens got extended. I think Drew got extended. They all kind of got extended, but Roman hasn't gotten.
Let's say Cody signed an extension right before it was the fall before he won the title at Mania 41.
Yeah.
Right, but they didn't
Which was the second time. Which is the second time they tried to screw him out of the belt.
Yeah, but they never got to the point where he was 100 days out from his contract being like due. And again, to me, like it's funny to me because like I remember like when I was the guy who was pushing back on like I didn't think Roman should have gone to the Hall of Fame when he did. And I said like because everyone said like, oh no, he's minted, he's a draw, he's gonna be like the huge and like nothing since he got elected has shown me that he's just like he's disappeared. And again, TKO is not a company that's loyal. Like you're not gonna get a loyalty contract from them. Like, that's
BJ.
not the way these people operate.
Hey BJ, if you have what your company says is the greatest wrestler of all time, who says he wants to work 200 days, and you tell him you only need him for 90, what does that say? You think about legacy of these WWE pro wrestlers? John Cena getting that disrespect.
I mean, I think if you look at what happened with Cena and basically, okay, we're gonna put your retirement. It's not going to be on a pay-per-view. It's not going to be at Mania. We're going to do it on a Saturday night's main event on Peacock, which is now our third in our line of apps where you can find our shows. And it just there is dripping disrespect, and Roman is just. This is where guys got to be more open to going to other places. And, not just as a thing where you just, I'm going to talk to Tony Khan and let it out over social media so they'll be more desperate to sign me. But you got to be able to pick it up and go to other places. I mean, I think you got to do it in other companies too. I mean, if you're in AEW, I think what Ethan Page and Ricky Saints and Power Hobbs, I think they're all making the right. I mean, I don't like WWE as a company, but if they don't have the moral issues I have, then it makes perfect sense for them to do it. And I think for Roman, he should start looking at, I think he should look at New Japan. I think he should look at AEW. I mean,
Moxley.
We're gonna talk about like ethical consumption for athletes in sports. I mean, like, my God, Like
Mox versus Liaki.
People are taking paychecks from the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, come on, man.
Hey BJ, imagine
like people are taking paychecks from Miriam Adelson and Dallas Mavericks, right? So, and I don't want to get myself into trouble, but like we can kind of we can go down a rabbit hole here.
Because if we think about like what matches he would have out there, that would be a draw. Like it would be amazing to see someone like. To see Liaki versus the Gene Blaster Yoda Tsuji, it'd be pretty. If you're Tony Khan and John Anuai is available, and you have John Moxley for the next couple of years, how are you not going to try for that match, for that reunion?
I mean, it's an interesting thing. What he's willing to do, but it's interesting to me. Like I'm just kind of putting it out there because again, I am not predicting, but I'm kind of like making.
It's going to be interesting.
It's the same reason. Like where we were successful, I think, in forecasting some of the stuff that's happening with this deal because we're using common sense to this and looking at past behavior as a predictor for future action. So past behavior for TKO tells me that they do not respect they don't respect you if you're not still drawing, right? They're not going to give you kind of like a gold watch contract.
Yeah,
So
they
I
don't
think
do
that
that.
like right, I think that everything to me, if you look at the booking, indicates that like Roman's been marginalized since WrestleMania 40, and I don't think that they're going to give him the money that he wants, which is going to lead to a situation. Again, it's getting close, and that's what's going to happen. BJ,
Yeah.
I did have something I wanted to float past you on the Warner.
Hey guys,
Sorry.
I'm just gonna put like a on with the show. Here we go.
So I got some rampant speculation, or like, I mean, I'm gonna basically couch this in I am speculating wildly here, but I think it's a reasonable question to ask based on what I've seen. So I want to get like BJ's take on
Okay.
this. Like, so if we kind of, when we talked about this, we said that the original plan probably was for, I mean, like that Warner and Comcast were working in concert to kind of like spin off the linear networks and kind of merge, and really kind of makes a little bit of sense when you know South Left comes from the NBC culture, it comes from the GE culture. They're all kind of working in that same corporate mindset, right? So there's a plan to divest themselves of like assets that were devalued with the debt and have them kind of like clear that, then maybe get devalued, maybe we can kind of bring them back later on. So, and now it seems like Comcast is fallen by the wayside and they're doing the cash only Netflix merger. But, right, here's my take on this, right? Or I was looking at this and going like, well, what if this happens? I suspect that Netflix wants to buy Comcast down the line, right? I think that there may be an intention that they're going to do this Warner merger first, right? And they're going to do linear networks, the percent, whatever's going to happen on the side. And I think they're expecting that this is going to take a few years, but down the line, maybe the next administration, maybe after clear, I think Netflix wants, for the same reasons they want Warner, I think Netflix also wants Comcast, right? And it's the same, like they want to basically deal themselves into the merger that Comcast and Warner were going to do, and it makes more sense to do it this way. And I think they may still my suggestion is there may still be the idea that Comcast will come into this, but down the line, because you have to clear the merger hurdle now. You could never do both, right? It would never pass the regulators. But if you kind of like clear everything out and do the regulation, then down the line it still makes sense. For the same reason the Warner Comcast merger made sense, it might make sense down the line, and also make sense for Netflix because they're really looking for the content picture. Now, I'm not saying that happens. I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if, like a year down the line, we start hearing Comcast Netflix rumors, right? Because it just kind of like fits kind of what they're doing. And again, like if you were going to do that, you wouldn't do it now. You can't even talk about it, right? But it is kind of weird that Comcast was all prepped to do this and kind of stepped to the side. And some things are still happening, but I mean, again, it doesn't really make sense for them to kind of like step in because again, the White House.
I think the thing with Comcast and the Warner Brothers merger was it really got hot fast, and what they were going to do was mainly a stock sale, which I think Zaslav would. I think their preferred partner in all this all along was Comcast. I mean, that seemed to be obvious from.
Hey BJ,
what I was told.
Wasn't one of the executives that Versan hired came from WBD, like Liz Melcher? She came from WBD, right?
I think so. I'm not sure. This is what I've been told, and this is other things that I've heard, was that probably if there would have been, and this could happen even regardless, was that the Warner Brothers Comcast were merged after the spinoff of Warner streaming studios and Discovery Networks, then it would probably most likely would have happened where Versant, which was the NBC networks, would have merged with the Discovery channels, which would have been CNN, TNT, TBS.
Right, and then I think, and my assumption was that, like, again, they were doing this to, again, divest the asset, divest the debt, and then maybe a couple years down the line repurchase the asset. I think like the,
Yeah.
the mentality I have from this is like GE wants to like it's not dead, it wants to come back, right? And like people who are like, and again coming from the culture again, like because GE doesn't really exist officially anymore.
Yeah.
And so like I think the people in the culture, like this is probably why it made sense to them, because again they're they want to kind of build that up and it makes sense
Yeah.
to them. And I think I still think the same drivers that made it a fit probably make it a fit down the line. I mean, again, I've said from the go that I think Southloff saw, a merger with Comcast kind of as going home, really, and I think that might
I
still
think
kind
that's
of
correct.
right. I mean,
Because the
again,
Netflix deal is still only for the digital and the IP side, right? The
yeah,
movies
it's
and the film
essentially
and the
everything.
digital.
They're buying the IP, they're buying the studio, they're buying the streaming components. They're not, and they're buying HBO, right?
Yeah.
So effectively, they are like essentially they will have a linear distribution channel through HBO. They're gonna have some linear distribution channels. They're essentially spinning off a lot of the assets that the assets they don't view as favorably, right? So that
Yeah.
that can. But I mean, I actually weirdly enough, I have a friend who just became a CEO of a company, right?
Hmm.
And I was listening to him talk about how linear networks still have like, and I agree with him. Like, I think linear networks are still going to be relevant in a different format, but I think some of this is essentially where everybody's paying off the debt that was accrued for the last 10 or 15 years of all the stupid things that the media companies have done. And I think eventually we're going to come back to like, linear distribution networks have value because effectively having that channel in the home that's really accessible is something that's useful. And maybe it may be a situation where it's something more like Tubi, where I know people love the Pluto or Tubi where they can just watch the Enterprise channel or like the DS9 channel or like the
Looney
horror movies
Tunes.
channel.
Looney
Right. So
Tunes
like
exploded on Tubi.
right. I think that having it may be something different because again, you have the freebie channels that come with your TV. I actually like the full disclosure. I mean, like one of I own a startup or like a part of a startup, and that startup is it's Sports Grid, which is one of the big IP channels over the free. Like we have like so like I am involved in that world, so I know that world, and I think that like there's value in that stuff, right? So it is something that I
Yeah.
think that like they're gonna come back to it, but I think essentially like they're taking this opportunity. Part of this was taking an opportunity to reset, and I think also it's an opportunity for the smart players to kind of like consolidate and kind of like come up with a good business. The other part that you missed, we were talking about this. So like I was saying to Larry, like I asked Doc and I said, look, I mean, if you look at the way Netflix behaves and the way Warner behaves, does it make more sense for them to do business with WWE or AEW that they own a part of, right? And to me, long term, I think AEW makes more sense for them because again, they own a part of it, right? They own a part of it. They've been a better partner. I think Tony's done a good job in presenting himself and like behaving like a kind of a much more he behaves much more like a guy you want to do business with. I think
Yeah.
WWE tends to burn their partners, and I think that like that long term is not
Somehow, I hate to interrupt, but somehow TKO has managed to burn more people than Vince has, and it's to me that's almost
Rapid
an
succession.
amazing
well. I mean,
accomplishment.
I think like the running thing with me, like for example, I'll use the example of the Tanahashi thing, right? The New Japan fans got so mad at me because when I explained to them, it's like this makes no sense, like because supposedly they wanted Nakamura, and I was like, but this like why would Bushi Road burn the partner that makes them so much money? They're gonna burn that partner, which is AEW. They're gonna burn CMLL, who hates a triple like CMLL guys can't be on a show with guys who've ever like been in like there's a list of people who can't work their show.
Yeah.
And people think like you don't know Petty like a Mexican wrestling company Petty, right? But like okay,
Yes.
so theoretically they're going to do this, and everything relied on they're going to do this, and they're going to trust WWE and TKO at their word. I'm like, no, like,
No.
and I was like, look, it's simply enough. If Vince, like, whatever you think of Vince McMahon, if Vince McMahon gave you a word that a guy was going to show up, the guy was going to show up, right?
Yeah.
And because he still had that old school, but like TKO, I don't trust TKO or WWE like to meet the requirements, like especially when they can screw like the competitors for doing that. It's like no.
The thing,
the reason that The reason that Carl Anderson went to finish his date was because Vince McMahon was still there. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
that what I can see, I think happening with Netflix and AEW is right now their plan is to keep the HBO Max.
Yeah.
Is to keep the HBO Max streaming service open by itself. And I think part of their reasoning for doing this is that Amazon makes a ton of money being kind of as a platform for people through Prime Video to use other streaming services. And a lot of that's HBO Max, Peacock. I mean, for a long time, you could even buy the premium channels for HBO
The
through
MJM.
Prime Video. And
yeah,
I think
I have to like tell my mother not to do that. It's like, Mom, don't do that. I have HBO Max. You don't need to buy it through Amazon. Come on, man.
yeah,
But because she
and
borrows my
it's
Amazon account, so she like
I
gives it to
think
me. I'm like, stop it.
Amazon. I tell you what, if Amazon does have some massive billing things going on, but I just think that to them, I think that pro wrestling is such a small thing in their sphere. They would not care about the existence. And the thing is it's like if AEW's been a proven driver for them outside of like MLB playoffs and things like that.
The pay-per-views have been tremendous.
The pay-per-views have been.
Business-wise.
I mean, HBO Max created pay-per-view capability just for AEW, and I don't see them just saying, just because WWE throws a fit or Shapiro throws a
I
fit.
mean,
I just don't
I
see
think
them
the other
saying.
part is the pivot with with Netflix is they're looking for evergreen content, and I think like eventually, like the WWE archive, which at this point is 7 years of pay-per-views, right? Is starting
Yeah,
and like all this TV, and it's actually like good quality product, right? This is the difference between like like what is it? Quality has a value all its own, so it's like really good, high quality kind of content that can be
yeah.
rewatched. And I think
Yeah.
that's actually a better fit for them in terms of the ecosystem they want to be, because they want to have that rewatchable content that people keep coming back
I
to.
think it's interesting is that they're only running back a few years. With Peacock, they brought in the whole WWE network, but that also meant that some of this stuff, because WWE's, I mean, some of the racist and sexist things they did was they were doing it 20 years later than general TV had stopped. So there was so much they had to go through and censor and all that stuff.
I
BJ,
think
did
one
you hear
With
right?
the AEW, at least you don't have that problem.
So right
so I
now
think
in India, they've kind of like watching like older wrestling right now, right? So they've uncovered like an old version of video of Raw, and Triple H is doing one of those, one of
Oh my
his
God.
offensive Indian accents, and right now he's
Yeah.
catching heat in India, which is one of their big markets for being racist 30 years
I think
ago. I think that's great.
one of the things that's actually really interesting that Tony has done. I think I've heard him talk about it, where like when he's negotiated themes, I think he's negotiated the rights to use them in perpetuity, right? So like if
Yes.
it goes, so essentially, I think Tony's done a really good job in like when he's done these shows, when the show is in the can, when this all in 2019 is in the can, right? Like so that when the pay-per-view is in the can, it's in the can. He doesn't have to go back and revisit it to edit it, which is going to be like really a good thing because it's going to reduce his cost down the
Yes.
line. So it's a smart
If
move
you
up
hear
front.
Final Countdown or Sympathy for the Devil, it's going to be on that show
Right. He's not,
forever.
Yeah.
which again is more expensive, right? It's a more expensive upfront cost, but down the line, it's going to make his life much more easy because he doesn't have
Yeah.
to like come back and revisit the cost, redo the video. It's like I've had this movie, I've got the right, it's there, it's filmed. You just watch it
That's
anytime. You
very
got it
much
anytime you want.
that's very much how a owner of a family business who has a long-term interest in their what they're creating would view something
I'm
versus how a let's say a company ran by private equity and former agents would look at things, which is quick now here.
if
We
I
have to
was
worry about the
talking
stock price
if I
constantly.
was talking to Tony, who's listening like now, the question I would ask him is, how does that play out with remixes? And what I mean by that is, so I've got all this footage of, say, Hangman and Page in different matches with music and whatnot. Can I, if I create a Adam Page 2-hour documentary, like the thing that AMC was doing for the 49ers, or something like that kind of thing, do I have the rights to can I do that? Is that embedded into the contract? Because if it is, then he's been really smart, because essentially that means he can mine the content he's already had
Yeah.
and create content that he can kind of reuse and like, oh, I'm going to
That's
tell you
real
the story
interesting.
of the Hangman Swerve feud, right? And kind of like use all these clips, and he owns them outright. And he's essentially just creating content from stuff that he already owns, right? And I think that's, again, like, there's a lot of possibilities there in terms of how you do that.
I would
depending on
love
how
to
you
see
set it up.
them do that. I wish they would
'Cause-
take like this, the Swerve Hangman feud, go back to get every instance of any promo from the beginning, all the way through every match, and just put it as a playlist or something, or as a
Yeah, like,
package you can
I
watch
think
on Max.
I think there's a value eventually in having something like NFL Films, right, where you just go out and
Oh
tell
yeah,
these stories, right?
Ooh.
And
I think Tony is a huge fan of NFL films, and I'm sure everybody. I mean, everybody in
Right,
our generation grew up with NFL films. I think
The
that would
frozen
probably
tundra.
be
the
the
frozen
fir-
tundra.
John. What was his name? The voice of God is what they would call him.
Dick Lombardi.
But
It's not Dick Lombardi. No, wait, no. They're talking about Lombardi or John. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about something that happened yesterday. I'm going to bring this up. And have you all watched the premiere of TNA on AMC?
Oh my God,
TNA,
yeah.
TNA, TNA.
It's like a car crash that I could not look away from. So I'm gonna ask a question. And I want you so I'm gonna put some context to this, right? So I watched that episode, and I think it might be the worst episode of TV I've ever seen because it was boring. It's so bad.
Yeah. Oh,
It's so boring. And I was like, but here's the thing. The point. Let me establish this. So the point of comparison is the Thunder, where David Arquette won the WCW title, right? Which David Arquette worked the main event. He was like filming Ready to Rumble, which is a movie like tie-ins. He was working at the main event. He was teaming with Diamond Dallas Page against Eric Bischoff and was it Jeff Jarrett? I think it was Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, Jeff
and
Jarrett.
he wins the WCW title, which it's the ultimate Vince Russo book show. Which it was terrible, but I was like, it was terrible, but it wasn't boring, right? So like the question I had, I said like, look, okay, so like, was this TNA show worse, right? And I was like, okay, so like the TNA show was promoting the CM Punk movie that's starring Justin Long, right? With CM Punk. It's this vampire cop movie. We can talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but like there's some interesting things there. But like if this TNA show had ended with a tag match with Justin Long and Santino Marella and like Santana and God, what's his name? The Elite Hunter. What's his name?
Frankie Kazarian.
Frankie Kazarian, SCU guy. So if it'd been a tag match with those four guys and Justin Long had won the TNA belt, so basically like if Vince Russo had booked the most Vince Russo version of the show, it would have been better than what I saw yesterday because at least it would have been interesting. Right?
Yeah, I kind of made this I made this sort of criticism because this show it felt like a long infomercial, and I know BJ has something to say about that, like because it felt
Bad
if you're watching
bad
if you're watching pro wrestling, if you're watching this show, you're expecting to see pro wrestling. I had this sort of discussion with other people where they were saying, the casual fan needs to be talked into the building into watching pro wrestling by these wrestlers. But
who was
no,
let me ask a question. Who was the person that had the most screen time on that show?
Santino Marella.
Why in God's name are you selling Santino Marella?
because he was over.
That's
He
what.
was over in 2009.
Wait. How many authority figures were on that show?
Damn, probably like 3.
No,
3-ish?
4. It was
Okay.
Santino's girl. It was FK, Sonya Deville, and Carlos Silva. 4. 4.
We also saw the return
Okay.
of Dixie Carter to television, and oh man, she was greeted so warmly by that crowd.
You know what?
And of
I'm
course,
honestly.
her best friend Bubba Dudley was there with her.
I'm gonna say like the only thing that popped me the entire night was Bubba Dudley hugging Dixie. That was the only thing that popped me the entire night.
That's heat,
Only-
brother. That's heat.
That's heat, brother. That's the only thing I was like, well, see, that was kind of amusing, right? Having him hug her, I was like, God.
So, all right.
good.
So this is. I'm okay. I'm gonna just read this off and see if you catch a pattern here. AJ Styles opens the show, which I think is a great thing. I mean, obviously, AJ is going to always be linked to TNA, and because he was the heart and soul of the place. He comes out, does the intro, they get right to it. Next person you see is Elijah, who is the former.
Elias.
I can't remember. Yes, Elias.
Ezekiel.
Then you see the Hardys. Then the next match, Who do we see? Let's see who comes out here. Well, we're going to point out some.
You forgot Mustafa too, who kind of like that's your pattern.
Yeah, Mustafa.
Yes, okay, who else are we going to get to? You got the women's match. You got Santino. You have you have an X division. You got an X division highlight package, which shows people from like 2006.
Yeah.
I thought Kazarian and AJ Styles confrontation was okay. I think they would have been better off if they just let the two riff on each other in a promo instead of just staring at each other. This was very, very WWE like feeling.
Former members of Fortune.
We were having a conversation about who would be the lowest member of the AEW or anybody's roster who you could bring in who would be the best person in TNA, and I was like, I'd be like, what? I was like Carl Anderson in full Sour Boy mode would probably be the best.
Well, the Righteous could never get over in AEW, and
God, I was like,
even
somebody
a Ring
said,
of Honor, and yet they look big time in TNA.
Maybe
they're being presented better. I don't know, but
somebody said the sex doll that worked with Kenny Omega, and I got offended because in this house we respect Yoshihiko, and Yoshihiko's too good for TNA.
Man.
Like Yoshihiko's too good for TNA. Like Dino,
she would outprice. She would outprice. She would not. She would consider any offer a low ball.
Yeah.
Then there's Santino wrestles the crowd.
Like
AJ Styles again, the ill inspiration. Let's see.
By the way, the inspiration are not TNA anymore.
Free agents as of last night.
Last night, yeah.
Santino again.
Santino's girl.
Feature on TNA World Champions, including NWA Champion Ron Killings, Ken Shamrock, Impact World Champions Eli Drake, and Pentagon Jr. All what do those four people have in common?
Did you notice the only the notable TNA champions that were absent?
Oh yeah,
there's a couple really notable ones that were absent.
I did not see one Roberto Lashley on there.
Bobby Lashley, Kenny Omega. Did I see Christian Cage with the belt? God, I think no.
I don't think they showed Christian in either iteration as the TNA champion or the NWA champion.
Yeah, and I'd argue that Christian is probably top
3. They did show Samoa Joe though, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's hard not to show the guy who's had the best match in the history of the company, right? So come on. They showed Christopher Daniels too.
I mean, not showing Joe would be like not showing anything from AJ Styles.
They showed Sting. I mean, you can't not show Sting, right? That's kind of
it's just obvious that this is such a WWE booking mess, and it's just the fact that they managed to get Leon Slater to SmackDown for a U.S. title match, but the guy who's probably the second most important or third, maybe one of the top 4 or 5 people in the entire TNA company can't be there for his debut. I guess he legit had visa issues according to the Observer.
They had people in the AJ Francis in the audience. Eric Young was in the audience.
They had people that could work that match.
They had people like how hard would it have been to just like grab the fucking Righteous and have them? They were in Texas. Just hire an indie guys. There's indie guys in Texas.
Why was Eddie Edwards? He cut a promo. Did he actually wrestle?
No. You know what's funny is we saw Brian Myers, another WWE guy, but like they cut so many promos that what happened, the after match that was supposed to happen, they put it on their digital instead of on the TV.
I have a theory about that, right? My theory about that is that they botched the finish in that match, and the ref counting to 3 was supposed to be the finish, right?
Oh,
because if you think about the timing of the post match segment, and you think about how far it was to the end of the show. I think that they were supposed to do that, and Nemeth was supposed to come out right there on this fight. So, I think they basically butched the call, or somebody made a stupid call, because it's kind of how do you not get Nemeth on the show when you literally spent an hour? The first hour they were just fucking wasting time. And pardon my French, but it was this was boring because it was just Santino Marella. They couldn't even get they had a call from Joe Hendry where Joe Hendry didn't even show up on video. He can show up on the freaking video. You can't FaceTime.
Another thing is I don't understand how Mustafa Ali ends up part of this tag match when he was pretty much the face and the biggest star of your promotion. Why is he shoved into a thing with the Hardys and the Righteous and all this other stuff when you obviously need him badly in just some other capacity, and it makes maybe he's hurt. I don't know, but
I mean, like, but what is
it,
what
it
like?
this it was like I was telling Doc this. It's like this was like a commercial. This instead of being the first episode of TNA on AMC, it was like a commercial for the first episode of TNA on AMC.
Yes.
Like there was nothing about this
Yeah,
that
this is
said
and
this
and,
is a
and,
go
and
back
it's
and
a
go
commercial
back
for
and
it's a commercial for TNA on AMC featuring Santil Marella, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And another the thing is, if you want this is where booking's simple, but it's hard, and it's like go back and watch the first AEW Dynamite. This is what happens the first AEW Dynamite. The first match is Cody Rhodes versus Sammy Guevara. Sammy nearly wins the match. They shake hands afterwards. While he's shaking hands with what looks like to be a babyface Sammy, Jericho comes out, clocks him in the head with the bell. So you already got that. They bring out talent. They're introducing people. They got excitement. Into the show is the forming of the inner circle, and it's a new stable. Jericho's forming a new heel stable. He's got LAX with Jake Hager. Man, how do you pair these guys together with Sammy Guevara? It's like you can just tell this is going to be a monster deal. They take out the entire elite.
Because
if
we compare this to the biggest TNA episode ever, like the Monday Night War episode, right? The restarting of the Monday Night War. If you watch that, there's so much wrestling on that show. There's I think there's 6 matches. And there's so much that happens on that show.
Let me talk you through episode 2 of Dynamite. Episode 2 of Dynamite is Private Party beats the Young Bucks in the tag team title tournament. Huge upset.
Shock the world.
4.25 match. The second match is the national TV debut of Darby Allin beating Jimmy Havoc, right? For a shot at Chris Jericho. Then it's Baker and Riho against Bia and Yami, which is fine. It's fine. Then Moxley and Sean Spears against Sean Spears, which is a good match. And then you have the Inner Circle Brawl against Adam Page and Dustin Rhodes, which, I mean, it's not rated great, but that match is fun. That's the one where, they're breaking doors and stuff. And then episode 3, right?
Is that the one where they go after him in the press box?
Yeah, and they break the door and the glass and,
not the Dippin' Dots.
Yeah, they're breaking over. They're brawling over the arena. It's great, and
that's one of the best brawls of all time.
Right, and then they have
Cody. There is no invisible. This isn't the other place, Chris. There is no invisible line keeping me from going up and kicking your ass in that suite. Then him and MJF march up there, and then it's on.
Yeah, it's
great. Just so good.
And then episode 3, right? Episode 3 is. You have SCU as best friends, which is a decent little match. You have the Lucha Brothers against Jurassic Express, which is okay. Then you have Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley and Pac, which fucking rocks, right?
Oh, God, that was a good match.
And then the main event is the Darby Jericho match, which again is just if you've never seen Darby before, right? Keep in mind, I consider Darby one of the best TV wrestlers ever, right? The body of work for Darby on TV is just an insane.
The week before, I think, was Darby. This is where I knew the company was going to be a hit. Was the Elites feuding, and Darby's just kind of been introduced. I think he wrestled Cody to a draw, right?
Yeah,
One of those first 2 episodes.
In one of those. No, he doesn't work. It's not a TV. It's one of those.
Fighter Fest.
Events. It's Fighter Fest or something. It's I forget exactly.
So that's already.
Yeah, he has a
TV,
big deal. He has a TV.
So he gets the match with Jericho, and this is where there's the brawl. Everybody's coming. They're not running music. It's just people coming down to help. The baby face is coming down to help, and then the last one's Darby, who's the new guy coming down on his skateboard, diving off of it, tackling Jericho, and the place just goes insane, and it's like. It's one of the most memorable moments in the company.
I think that the idea is that AEW sold us on being different and new and exciting, and they focused on they had guys out there. I mean, they tried with Parker, but we're gonna make Darby a star. We're gonna make Adam Page a star, right? We're gonna make these guys. MJF is gonna be they had Guevara. And I think TNA doesn't have anything like that. And I think the selling pitch for TNA, which is the thing that kills me, it's if you really loved 2019 WWE, boy, have we got something for you.
Not even 2019, man. This is 2009.
The worst. I'm talking no. 2019, the worst. Like
Oh yeah.
like what is like because like they, where's there's no good workers. All the good workers have left, right? Like
I
so
mean, they
like
got a couple good guys. I mean, the thing
Eddie
they need
Edwards
to
is
do
good
is the
still.
thing they need to do is they need to first of all, you kick Santino as far out of that company as you possibly can, and then you focus on Mustafa Ali, you focus on Frankie Kazarian, you focus on Santana
Hey,
because
do you
those are the
guys
guys that can still go.
do you guys
And
want to know
especially
the
Ali's a superstar in the waiting.
you guys want to know what's up for next week for TNA? So we have Jeff Hardy
yep,
versus Mustafa Ali.
yeah.
We got a
That should be okay. I'm not. To be clear, there's no chance in hell I am watching another episode of TNA.
yeah.
Right? I just
No.
We
like if I
got
had
Feast
any,
or
like
Fired.
it got beaten out of me. Right?
This was my first show of watching TNA since I've caught matches from there on YouTube. This is the first time I've actually sat down and
A full.
watched an episode since the Monday Night War episode.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've watched a TNA episode since I was involved.
This
Since I was involved tangentially in producing it. So no, I'm
Oh
not.
my goodness.
that's
We
No,
have
dude.
no.
So
we
one,
have
I will
Feast or
just say this.
Fired, and then Indy Hartwell
Yeah.
versus M by Elegance. Those are 3 matches announced for next week and a bunch of promos. So we're in this. I think this is gonna be
So
the
I think
formula.
the formula is going to be it's going to be Monday Night Raw without WWE production and
Yeah.
And all the commercials in the world.
Without the NXT young talent.
Yeah. Also, I think what people were saying that were watching on AMC Plus was there was commercials that interrupted the matches and the promos. So a lot of things that were cut out of the AMC Plus
Jesus.
streaming. I think. Ooh.
I think one of the things is again I think and it's been the problem. Like somebody was like, what is it? Somebody was saying defending Dixie and saying like, why are they booing her? Like if it wasn't for Dixie, TNA would have died in 2002. And I said, that's if I was doing historical significance, that would be a negative for Dixie because I actually think that like the fact that TNA existed as the number two company for like 20 years with no actual relationship to fiscal responsibility was a huge detriment to wrestling worldwide because effectively it meant that these guys we have this generation of like decrepit bookers who just they never had to really actually draw. They never had to figure it out
No.
because like TNA was easy mode. So we have these guys who think they know what they're doing, but they really don't because they never do a freaking dime. So we have like Tommy Dreamer and Delirious. We like just
Shout
don't
to
know
you,
what
Scott
they're doing.
D'Amore.
Like they don't like Scott tried. Scott was doing some good stuff. And I think that like what you have now is I mean it's a company that basically like retarded like and I mean that like retarded the growth of American wrestling over 20 years.
Yes.
And because since it was not linked to the draw, like having wrestling company as of like, and I'm basically burying Moose a little bit. Who said that like fans opinions doesn't matter. You are a performer, right? The ultimate measure of a performance, right? If you're a performer on a public stage, is whether the crowd likes it and they're willing to part with their money because they liked your performance, right? This is like if you're a musician, you're busting. Like now, again, you can be an artist, but like you're a public performer who's trying to draw a house, right? So
Yeah.
the applause of the audience, the enjoyment of the audience is extremely important. And TNA was delinked from that from a lot of time, and that meant that there was no healthy environment. And like where you did have some healthy environments, they were kind of like facing this pressure and didn't have the space to develop. We have companies that were creative in that period, but maybe didn't have the space to develop and also had the poison chalice that TNA did by like burning a lot of relationships with
Yeah.
things like the
It's
Russo stuff and like
it's
burning TV
just,
partnerships, right?
it's a shame about what happened with Lucha Underground and the whole contract and the whole TV contracts and all those
I mean,
wrestlers sort of getting screwed out of that
look,
kind of thing.
I'm just gonna say this: it's Lucha Underground. The fact that they managed to get what they did with a AAA produced product in the U.S. is a miracle, right? The fact that it exists is a miracle. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
because AAA is we know. Like I think it's funny now because like when WWE bought AAA, I was like, this is the one situation where I think WWE will actually make things better because like the AAA,
They have.
like AAA was just so insane, and I think that like Borash and Undertaker actually get it. It's kind of funny. Like you watch it. And they've done a decent job, and I'm assuming like Borash is probably talking to Tanay too, and it's people who actually like care about the product and have
I
actually
was
like
talking.
sold.
It's funny you mentioned Borash because it was like, I mean, but WWE's running this thing. Everybody knows it. It's like they should really take Borash and Abyss, put them in charge over there, and just say, okay, you know,
But that's who's run. That's who's booking. Like you can tell. Supposedly it's Taker and Borash, and it's like the guys who were there
for
actually know.
AAA or for TNA.
For
No, I'm talking for
AAA.
AAA. I'm talking Triple A. I'm talking Triple
Yeah,
A.
it's like, I mean, why not do that with TNA? It's like, why give it to
Well, okay,
somebody that knows that?
but is there has TNA in their life ever drawn the kind of money that
Never.
like AAA draws? I mean, like here's the thing. Like
You,
there's
you
like
know
I mean,
you know what's
AAA was one of the
funny? There was
like
this thing being
if I'm not
floated around about
go
AEW,
ahead.
about AMC, and so there was this thing floated around that sounds stupid to me, where people were saying that TNA getting the AMC deal was sort of like a blight for WWE because CW didn't take them. But like that's just something that's been thrown out there. I'm not really
I
gonna
don't believe
quantify
that.
that because I don't
I
believe it
think
because
they're exactly
WWE
what
got them because of the whole they were part and parcel of them getting the TV partnership.
they're exactly where TNA is exactly where TKO wants them to be, which
Yeah, I mean,
is
I think.
eating up another streaming service and another cable channel and
Well, I
just
mean, I think the,
devouring the
the
market
thing,
and over
well,
flooding it.
I think the thing with the MC deal is again, it's a revenue share. It's a very low risk for them. I think the audience for this is very very limited. I'll be shocked. I think what's going to happen is they'll pull. I think they'll pull a different number, but I think people like I know enough people were talking about it that people showed up to the car wreck, but this is not the kind of thing that you want to show to people. So I feel like nobody's showing up for the next episode, right? So
That
it's
they
like
were,
Yeah.
I think you're correct. I mean, I think with AEW, even when they went through their really crappy booking, I think that they had enough goodwill with fans where they didn't completely bow out, or the workers had enough goodwill, like the
Yeah.
performers there did.
I've
And
actually I've argued the point that like
TNA does not have any of that.
I've argued the point that HBO has probably been a way better partner than TNT in the sense that I think HBO there's a very clear before and after when they're on TNT only when they start getting on HBO where all of a sudden like there's certain acts that just disappear like like where did Jeff Jarrett go? Why are all these old off the all the olds are off TV and look at all the luchadors doing things now and
Yeah.
look at Hangman and Swerve and I think HBO like probably gives them. HBO probably has access to minute by minutes and gives them like detailed like notes like, hey, maybe give us more Tony Storm. We like the hot like
From
yeah.
Well, the
Use
way
that for
Tony,
over.
well, I know at one point they had a booking committee, and like Sarah Stock, I think may have been, maybe I don't know. I think she was just producing, but it had Sanjay Dutt, Pat Buck, Jarrett may have been a part of it, and that's where you ended up seeing all. MJF was definitely, even if he wasn't in it, was controlling a lot of what was going on, and at some point Tony was just like, I'm just wrestling back all of this, and I think the biggest worry I had with Tony when AEW started was, and I even talked to people that were getting jobs there, and I just said, look, I said you guys have to protect him from these idiots are going to see him as a money mark. I said, I know, I mean, I knew of his knowledge of the business, and I said, but they're con men, they're hustlers, they're grifters, they're going to come in, they're going to try to get jobs and just rake in cash and bankrupt the place because they think it, and then talk about it on a podcast while drunk and think it's funny. And
I think one
and
thing
Tony did not fall for any of that stuff. I mean,
I
so
think
far
one
the only old timer guy that's been able to get in that hasn't, was Jarrett, and they actually had a purpose for him, which was to put him on live events. But he managed to get his way on TV because
The
after a
ultimate
while,
finesser.
all that stuff went away. Yeah,
yeah, 'cause
after a while,
I think one thing that's interesting and this is me projecting a little bit, but I think one thing that the cons they're coming from the sports world, and I think one thing they come in, they hire a GM and they give him the ball and let him run. So I think Tony is like that where he does give the ball. It's like the same thing they do in the other. They'll give the ball to a guy, but when they lose trust, you're dead, right? You're gone, you're dead, it's over. And I do think that Tony has actually been smart about moving on and changing and shifting. And, I think I'm not a fan of MJF, but I do think that this reign so far has played out better than the first one, and
Oh,
he's playing out smart.
I was when they put the belt back on him, I was already having post-traumatic MJF's first title reign disorder.
man.
And
Because
this,
that's when everything went to pits.
I think that my key complaint with MJF was a heat black hole. Like, so anybody who worked with MJF was devalued by working with him, which is why the top guys did not want to work with him, because like just go back and look at the Jay White main, which is I think the Jay White MJF pay-per-view is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I went home early from that. Like I left the Kia Forum after the whole.
You were at that show? Wow.
Yeah, I left after Hangman Swerve because I was like, okay.
Wasn't that the same night that Jericho and Omega wrestled the Young Bucks, because that was the only way they could get on the show in their hometown, was if they wrestled each other.
I mean, I think the thing I'll point out is with Jay White is people are like now down on him, but like Jay White got a cardboard cutout of like
the Batman gang turned face after MJF.
Yeah, he was extremely over. He was basically like he was eating up MJF on the mic, and he was a guy that like, I mean, it would have been simple enough. Just put the belt on. Like MJF was already hurt. He was dropping the belt. He could have just dropped the belt to him and then have him drop the belt.
I do gotta say this from like different people, because this has been talked about. I'm not gonna say who told me this stuff, but you know, like when MJF got in trouble for saying what he said with the Diddy joke, they sort of kept him away from the mic and doing like his ad-lib stuff. If you notice that, his mic time has been cut a whole lot since he got himself in trouble. You know, and hopefully,
I think the point I was going to make is that this Bandito program, he worked it. He didn't work racist, which he's tended to do, or he didn't work racist in like a needless way. He worked in a way that got Bandito over. He won clean, but it was a very clean match. It was a well-worked match. He got it over. They basically sold the Bandito's arm that had been selling for 6 months, and he put him over after. And I think this and the Mystical feud are the sweet spot for him. He needs to kind of understand how to sell. And I think what I mean, like, sell the opponent. His job as champion is he needs to make his opponents better and raise them up, right? Because effectively, it's like Moxley did this. Moxley in his turn, people were mad, but Moxley raised everybody up, right?
He raised the entire company out of the creative black hole. Like he had which companies just, you know, the thing is, just, companies will get themselves into that. And it took time. And I think I will give Tony Khan a lot of credit, because I don't think there's a booker. I don't think there's anybody anywhere else that wouldn't have started panicking after 3 months.
Go look at that first Death Rider promo where he's saying like there's a bunch of geeks, right? And he was right, and he cleared out all the geeks out of the.
He reset the promotion.
He reset the promotion. If you look at the roster now, top to bottom, it's way stronger. I mean, I think I was really nervous about this MJF run. I'm still really nervous about him. I'm still very short rope about him. I do think it's gotten better. I do wish that they hadn't done what they did, which is that like double switch kind of was really dumb, right? So I thought the double switch to get to him was dumb. It would have been better if he just beat Hangman by cheating.
He could have eaten that heat. He could have used that actual heat.
Yeah, he could have. That heat would have been great. I think that like ultimately, hopefully we can kind of get past it. I understand why people don't want to work with him.
I guess they don't. There's something they do not want Max beating Hangman.
It's fine. I get why, but I mean, I think you could have just done him. They get like it. I mean,
Page can take losses. He's and he'll do it. He'll job.
Yeah, he could, but you could have jobbed him out with MJF cheating. MJF could have taken a shortcut to win. Yeah, right? That's the story.
I mean, he's lost to Page before. Page is beat. Yeah,
and ultimately, I think the point is that like I thought that the mystical program and the Bandito program are indicators that he's kind of
matured.
He's figured something out, or they have him on a much tighter leash. But the other point that I was going to make is AEW has done a good job at resetting the roster and clearing that. Like if you look at the roster and the amount of people that they brought in, And they're going to let some people go because I do think that you have to like keep moving and keep changing.
Yeah,
And
well, like, because the big story for this year, thank you, Trish, for talking about this, is a lot of big contracts are coming out, like, are ending in 2027, and that's in both companies, both of
yeah,
the
I
big
just
two companies.
I spent the time on Roman and like people like nobody and watch like I like to think that like some things I can smell things out and like I know there are people talking that people who are talking about the Roman stuff are people that made me sit up and go like, oh, I may have been completely right on this like a year ago when I said that this contract negotiation was going to be like because he's the
Kind of
biggest.
like how we were right about Trump finding a financial way to get
Well, I
involved with
mean,
WBD.
Oh yeah, man.
we
Just
knew
to go,
we
just to
knew.
go back in a little bit. It was revealed today on this date of January 16th, 2026. Donald Trump had bought bonds in both WBD and Netflix that will mature in 2029. I think they were both valued
Yeah,
at
they,
$1
of
million
course,
Debt
dollars.
of course,
properties, yeah.
he was always going to get his beak wet. That's, I mean, that's come on, man.
So
Like we know, we said
David
Remember when
Ellison
Jimmy
is
Carter had to sell his peanut farm in
Oh,
Georgia because he couldn't because it was a clear conflict of interest and
yeah.
I don't want to get too political, but I mean, like, it all comes back to the fact that, like, the Supreme Court ruled a certain way, and the way they ruled, that's the way it's going to operate. Like,
yeah, they really.
Well, I mean, like,
Anyway, I'll
I
say this about the one thing I really like different about this Max feud is automatically, like you had them hot shot a match with Kenny Omega against Max with like 3 days notice just to have something, just to give him some momentum. It's funny because if you go back and watch that Max title reign, the guy who saves it was Ricky Starks. If
Yeah.
Ricky Starks comes out the second because he tries to do a heel promo with William Regal in the ring, it's not working. So he then gives him a cheat shot because the fans are just sitting there. They just are not into him having the title. The next week, Starks comes out and just cuts maybe the ultimate babyface promo and heats him back up. And it's like at this point, I'm thinking, I actually wrote this online. I said I think they should hotshot the title on Starks.
by the way, no. Here's the thing. You may have not heard me like go on this rant before, but I'll explain. I speak Tony Stark booking. Sorry, I speak Tony Khan booking. Right. Okay. So here's my take on this. Right. The plan was always Tony Khan's plan was always that Ricky Stark was going to be the first feud for Swerve as champion. Right.
Okay.
If you go back to the booking and you go back to their feud and you go back to the tag team feud and you go back to the three-way against Swerve and Our Glory and you go back to how that played out where Ricky has the fake win, right? And then they come in and win and how that all played out, he was being set up. He was being set up for a TNT program, right? And he's being set up for a TNT program. He was going to be set up to eventually win the TNT program and then actually like have the program with like he had the match with Max, but he was being set up to have the match with Swerve 1, Swerve 1. But then that Edge promo happens, right?
Yeah.
And
which Edge should have been sent home after that, yeah.
And like, they immediately changed everything about the booking. And effectively, if you replace what happens with Christian after that, right? If you take Christian out and you put Starks in that, then Starks probably like if you think about it, because then Christian gets that program with Swerve, but Christian is essentially like to me he's the Ricky Saints. Like they had to like replace Ricky in that program, right? Because I do think that like the key was that Ricky was going to be the guy who was gonna work Swerve and he was gonna get linked with Swerve. And I mean he was already linked. If you go back again, Tony likes to come back to these, right? So like it's the same mentality that Gato had. Like he sees it, right? So there was always the rival.
You mean long-term booking?
Yeah, the long-term booking was always Ricky and Swerve were always.
I mean, long-term booking. Period. Like, I mean, I think people forget that what Tony is doing and what Ghetto did is what promoters always did. It's what WWE does is just constant.
I cannot wait to get back to Kenny Takeshita. I'm so
and by the way, that was always going to be the plan. And then, like when the whole Ricky thing happens, and of course Ricky has to leave, and I was like, explained, well, he has to leave because effectively the Booker chose Cope over him, right?
Yeah,
and this was
actually there was other things going on with him. The title reign, him and Bill winning the title in the three-way was suggested by Dax because he, I guess, a lot of people thought it was politics on his part, so they didn't have to drop it to the Bucks. But I think that they felt generally that Bill and Ricky had done a good job getting over,
Yeah,
I
and they
think
were friends with Bill and seen all this work he'd done, and they wanted to reward him.
One
they
thing to
were a
never
good tag team, and that's why Sting wanted to work them. Sting
Who
works
was-
Ricky
okay, so-
his a lot.
early
Yeah.
collision, Punk's collision.
Yeah.
Who were his two guys?
Jay and Ricky.
Jay and Ricky. Like the only guy like who got the pin, Punk gave Ricky a clean pin, right?
Yeah.
And he was
Kind of a
pushing
king.
Jay strongly.
Problem was he
And
made him go heel when Punk should have went heel.
But think about how both Ricky and Jay both got buried, right? After.
Yeah.
Like Ricky obviously would happen, but Jay gets buried by MJF. And then
we all
Jay
have
gets buried by
MJF
Billy
world
Gunn.
title reign PTSD
No,
right
but
now.
you remember the Billy Gunn Jay White match.
Oh yeah, complete
That's
burial.
a crime. That's another crime against humanity, right? But again, the point being that, like, effectively, I do think again there's a before and after because all these olds are suddenly off TV. Cope's nowhere, right?
Yeah.
Gate's nowhere because I do think that again, like once you shifted to a company to HBO, which chats minutes by minutes and goes like, oh, people like exciting things and women. Oh, hey, like people want to see Tony Storm and they want to see like Willow and they love all the luchadors and like, can we have more of that? It's like, why are you putting all these old WWE guys? And like, again, I think like it's funny because people always like Samoa Joe, so Samoa Joe keeps showing up. Like, I do think that like some of that is being driven now by the fact that they get like better data and says like, yeah, don't put these old guys. No, that's not the way, right?
The thing is Tony Storm's the best. Tony Storm's probably the best. I mean, she may not be the highest drawing. I think she's definitely high drawing, but Tony Storm's the biggest star in wrestling right now. To me, she's like the closest we've come to a Rock type promo figure since The Rock.
I want to get the belt back on her. I mean, God bless Statlander, but I think that
she tried, but she just doesn't have the juice. Yeah, she feels lesser than Willow.
She had that run. It's a Sonata run. It's fine. Like let's get it back on Tony. Because
she was always the one. So when Mercedes broke her ankle in the Willow match, and she just changed the booking and had Willow win the New Japan Strong title, the idea was they were going to bring in Mercedes that spring. This was like a year and a half before she actually came over, and the idea was that Mercedes was going to join up with the former WWE group that had Tony Storm. Yeah, when I talked to somebody about how that was originally, they were going to basically try to make it a female version of the Bullet Club, and the way they had it planned was like brilliant, and they weren't going to like even try to mince like the influence of it. It was not going to be a cute thing, and it was going to be nasty, and it was going to be like a lot more what you saw with the hardcore matches and stuff. But that ended up getting vetoed, or somebody in Tony's ear decided they didn't like it, or it was too close. They shouldn't do this. But then Mercedes was going to come in to bolster them, and then when
SS by any chance.
Ooh.
We have someone very publicly who's come out against that kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, like that's what I'm suggesting. Maybe. Whereas, like suddenly when she's gone, all of a sudden, we have that blood and guts match. I don't know. Then she was complaining about it publicly, wasn't she? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm just
might have
speculating.
Been that might have been. I don't know if she was there then or not. I have a feeling she might have been, but I really don't know. But
I'm speculating.
But what was happening was Mercedes was going to come in as the big star to lead this women's thing, where there's like we're going to be, we're the anti everybody crowd, and then Chris was going to come back after her knee surgery, was going to come back and beat Mercedes for the AEW title. So they've had title plans for Statlander for a long time. I think she's been a very good champion.
Yeah,
I think she's had great matches. I think the biggest issue is that it's just really, really hard at an AEW pay-per-view if there isn't something going on with your match.
The problem, and it's
that you get over and lose the crowd.
It's nothing against Statlander, right? Statlander's fine. The problem is that Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné are two of the biggest women's stars we've ever had. And really, keeping them away from the main event scene is kind of like a and again, like it's just sometimes it's like just go back to them. Like Tony
I think Tony, and this is where they got in trouble early on because you never got the Punk versus the Omega, you never got the Elite, you only got Danielson Omega once. Is that he's trying to put some time in there before you get to where we're gonna have Athena. Somebody's got to beat, somebody's got to beat Athena. Athena's going to have to beat Mercedes and Tony at some point. At some point, she's got to have the belt in AEW because she's probably the best worker out. I don't know. Mercedes is the best women's worker in the world, but Athena's pretty damn close.
Those are like your top 3-ish. Like those are sort of like 3 people that you can't have to book strongly in this company based on how they've treated them. I do believe Willow she's been great in what she's been doing. The tag team run, promo's a little sloppy, but the fan base loves her. I love Willow.
Yeah,
I love the matches.
I think we're gonna see what Arturo. I think what we'll see is Willow. I think putting the TBS title on her felt like okay, we should probably go the next route with her because Willow is the big baby face. But I think that Arturo, what we're going to start to see is this storyline with Mercedes where she gets the 13 titles. She can't win the 14th, and all of a sudden the mental cracks show up. It's like the Okada deal.
Well, I do think that
she needs the balloons.
I think some of the setup might
she needs to go to Derry.
I think some of the setup might be don't be surprised if Mercedes working Suri at some point. I think that's what's coming. I think that they may want to, because if you think about how that played out, Suri won. She's coming to the U.S. They did not bring in Thalsaya, and they may.
Did Suri sign with AEW?
They were kind of talking about that at All In last year. How they wanted to bring her in for an AEW run.
Was gonna come in. She was gonna come in for the. I think she was gonna come in for the vet style runs that the New Japan guys come in. Right, yeah. where Ishii comes in and makes more money in the U.S. by working 3 months for AEW than he does
He's also more over. He's also presented. He's also the first Japanese star in history to get presented better in the U.S.
So he was.
It's crazy.
So he was gonna come in and he's gonna work. She was gonna work Mercedes, and if you remember, she was gonna come in. She was gonna work Mercedes. That didn't happen, and they took this detour. She's healthy. She beat Saya. She's now she's got the
double
strong
crown.
and she's got the double crown. I think when she comes into the U.S., you're going to see that match. So that's going to happen. And I think that they may want to kind of have let's explain this to somebody. It's like somebody is like, oh, New Japan is getting away from the AEW people. I'm like, you're crazy. Not only I don't think they're not getting away from it. I think because I think here's the thing. I think the pattern for it, until they break it, I think the pattern to expect that New Japan and Bushiroad likes is I think when they're doing the tours, they like having guys that they're not paying or gals that they're not playing that can draw in the U.S. and they can bring over an interesting. So I do think that Mercedes is in play again. I think
we're seeing CMLL guys also join.
We were talking about this for Tsuji. We were talking about if this is a typical first reign, he's going to lose B3 or V4. Yeah. And if you think about who he's feuding with, the leader of the faction he's feuding with is Andrade, right? So it may wind up that and then Tsuji can lose the belt to somebody who can work a U.S. tour maybe, and then he can win the G1 and then get his coronation in the next.
They kind of did that with Moxley.
Right. I mean,
they put the belt on him,
and they did it with Takeshita too. God, they can work the U.S. tours, draw a house, and then come back and
drop
the belt without any political.
I think
Takeshita was a big draw for New Japan in the U.S. as a
and the thing about it is Andrade is actually over everywhere too, so it's kind of interesting. I thought
it's crazy because he's such a dick.
You know what? I'm gonna defend.
But he's handsome. He's a handsome dick.
I'm gonna defend him. Who amongst us Latinos has not gotten distracted by the crazy white woman? The problematic the problematic hot white woman. I think
he went back to people asked what he. Because people asked what did Andrade get out of going back to WWE? He got a divorce. That's what he got out of it.
I mean, but he tried. I mean, you know what? I respect him. He tried.
He tried.
He can
Yeah,
say
I know
honestly
a
he
lot of
tried.
details on that situation. I don't think that's quite how
Okay,
Andrade's had some issues, but I'm not a Charlotte basher. I think
I mean,
that
I'm not a basher of but I'm gonna go like you don't have to explain it to me like that. What's the running joke that eventually Naito like we're gonna be able to build a whole stable around Naito and his children in
Oh
Mexico in
man.
Japan. Like and Rush,
We're
it's like let's not get into like multiple
yeah, because
families,
it'll
but
make the
he has a
It'll make the Don Callis family look like the Rock and
yeah.
Roll Express.
Because
There's
like
too
oh
and
many
he's
of them.
man,
holding Naito and
Naito has
Naito
little
and
Naito seated in Mexico, in the UK, in the US, in Canada. He's
well,
got them all over the place.
I mean, like I don't know, I mean, like maybe do we want to
Wasn't
talk
it
about the
great
guys?
seeing him at Wrestle Kingdom though?
Oh
Yeah,
God, it was all about Naito.
we talk about like
Oh,
a 10-minute entrance.
Seeing
I think I think
Coda seeing
I think the
Coda
really
limp
interesting
out
thing about
there, and then
the really interesting thing.
Takeshita's wearing Nakamura's armband. It just and then Tanahashi somehow he somehow wills himself to have knees for 20-30 minutes
Crazy.
for one last
Uh,
time in his life.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it was a good like it was a good goodbye. Hey guys, I'm just gonna put a little pause right here because I gotta check on something.
I'm coolin', I'm feeling alive. Don't be calling my phone, trying to kill my vibe. Bitch, I work too hard to get this fly. I'm feeling good today, good today, good today, good today, good today, good today, good today. I'm feeling good today, 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 good today.
And we're back. And one of the things that happened today was a huge WWE tryout. A bunch of people came there. One of the reasons for this, it's kind of disgusting when you read
alleged
it, but like,
reasons, yes.
yeah, one of the is it was a tokenism tryout, as it was said that the tryouts featured a lot of African American, black talents because of the rumors that came out of Triple H not willing to push black talent in main event
It's
spots.
not. It's not a rumor. I mean, like the next time a black male wrestler in WWE wins a singles match clean on pay per view, will be the first time it's happened under Triple H as
Oh
booker.
yeah.
So I mean, it's not a rumor. I mean, like we're talking.
The last black man that won a singles match on pay per view was Snoop Dogg. So
Yeah, I think it was
Really?
last. I think yes, Snoop Dogg, and I think the last time it was Lash. I think it may have been Lashley on a SummerSlam over Theory, and I think that was officially. It's been confirmed in court documents that
McMahon was
book
back, still there.
that Vince booked it. Right. We
Yeah.
know now have confirmation of what we rumored that like no Triple H didn't book it the last time a black man won.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
singles pay per view match.
and Mello winning the U.S. title was apparently a Road Dogg decision, not a Triple H decision. So,
Yeah, but did that happen on pay per view?
oh no, it did not happen on pay per view. It happened on
Okay.
SmackDown.
Did not happen on pay per view. It's kind of like the joke about like, well, I mean, like the point being that like this is not new. I mean, if you've paid attention to the hiring prospects or the way they've done the hiring, like it's really interesting because the way they've done the hiring through NILs for the PC has been they hire all these like very talented athletes. So like if you go back, there is a very like there's a very diverse, very athletic, very talented roster in NXT who never seem to advance, right? Like because they hire these people like they hire these very talented people like Femi or Javon or like there's like some real talent. And like, but I they're never going to push them because like again the booker doesn't seem to like want to push them
He doesn't see
for some
color.
mysterious reason. Yes, yeah, he's okay. Yeah, it's very curious. And the other part that was interesting about this tryout was we had an influencer that was immediately had to quit the tryout because one of the things they were doing this thing they called flatback drills, right? So what they do is they get people in the ring and they have them start doing flatbacks. And if you're taking rookies and just having them do flatbacks in mass, and flatback is essentially you're essentially you bend your knees and you're in the ring and you drop back, right, straight back, and they tell you attack the mat, supposed to like fall back hard. And if you don't know how to do it, you're supposed to like pull your chin up, right, when you're doing it, because if not, you start banging the back of your head.
So when you do a flat back pump, because I did a lot in like judo, jiu-jitsu, is you smack the mat, you make sure your chin is up so you're not smacking the back of your head on there,
Yes.
and you're always bracing yourself. And the problem with this, if you've seen the drills that like they show on like NXT when they're showing like the combines and stuff, is you drop, you get back up, you drop, you get back up. And I think what the influencer said is
the other part is if they're doing them, if there are a bunch of people in the ring at the same time, one of the things that happens is the rings are not stable, right? So like it's stable if it's a couple people, but if you have like 5 or 6 people doing it at the same time, and then I'm making an assumption, but again, from the description that was given, I can kind of make that assumption. They have a bunch of people doing it. There's a bunch of people that are pressing them, and I'm assuming that somebody's slipping the timing. So it's very easy for somebody to slip the timing and bang the back of their head, and they're like, do it again. Do it again and do it again.
Because the way she was talking is people were like trying to show off, like they can bump and they can get up faster to be on the bump back. Because like if you look at like when you see the training and how they do it, they're like running in place, back, flat back. Or sometimes they're holding, because she's talking about they're holding the ropes. Holding the ropes, turn around, back. And like sometimes guys will get kicked in the head. Sometimes the people will hit their head on the rope. Sometimes people will hit their head on the mat.
The point. This brings me to the point, which basically, like the point is that they're not being very safe, and it's not a very safe environment. And
what do you mean, Mr. Arturo?
Safe. Well, we've talked about this. Like so, a while back, we had Steven Regal put out this tweet, and this was after I believe, I think it was a John Moxley. I forget. It was a Moxley bump.
Moxley and Fletcher.
Moxley and Fletcher took a nasty bump, and Regal put this thing out about like him breaking his neck at one point and then not saying anything, keeping working and being unsafe, and kind of it was a veiled shot at AEW and their working conditions, and I took offense to it because if there is a company where they do they don't work very safe. If you look at the historical prevalence of neck injuries, it's WWE.
ACL injuries.
I mean, like,
no.
I'm talking about neck injuries. Let's start talking about how many guys can you start. You start making a list. You're gonna get so scared. If you make a list of people who've had broken necks, who've had to have surgery, who've had bad bumps and broken their neck, we got Stone Cold, we got Kevin Owens, we've got Kurt Angle.
Well, okay, so let's work backwards. So Kevin Owens, Big E. Broke his neck. He's retired because of it.
TJ Evans.
TJ
TJ Wilson. Yeah.
Then you go back. I don't have much knowledge, but then you go back. Chris Benoit, neck fusion surgery. Kurt Angle, neck fusion surgery. You also have
Randy Orton.
Neck fusion surgery. Steve Austin, who recently came Rhino neck fusion surgery. You also had Steve Austin, who just said that he almost didn't come back to WWE because right after he just recovered from paralysis, Vince called him up and wanted to make plans for his return, and this was something that I'd heard about way back at the time. And it was like people people just wouldn't believe that. I'm like, why are they making this guy work so much when he just had a broken neck?
And then
it's because he was the only guy making him money.
Bryan Danielson,
he just retired, but let's face it, a lot of Danielson's damage he also did in Soraya. Danielson did so much of his damage in the Indies. And in AEW too. I mean, AEW does take a lot more riskier spots, but at the same time, I don't know if it's safer to do the spots the way WWE or if it's safer the way WWE does, where they have stuff so scripted down. Where like Liv Morgan's shoulder injury was all because of just how they had that match laid out.
I have a big problem with it. Like my problem with WWE or like the style of work and the risks that they take is that I do not believe they do a proper job of training them to catch.
No, not one bit.
And we have a lot of people doing spots that they're not qualified to do. Right? If you see Hechicero and Dorada doing a spot on AEW, these guys. Like, I mean, Hechicero is like one of the best bases like to ever live. Him and the Beast, like some of the guys are just insanely good work. Claudio, insanely good base, and these guys have 20 years or 20 years of doing these spots, of training it. They know how to catch. They know how to like. I've seen Devis Morto save people's lives on dives, right?
Yeah, like, Commander should thank him so much.
The person's going. This person's like hologram. I was like, hologram is going to die, and Morto somehow catches him out of the air and just lands him like a baby. And effectively, like there is an art to knowing how to work safely. And I think one of the problems I have is that I think WWE does this where like they try to copy these spots with people who do not have the training or the ability to do
Well,
it.
look at who was the woman in NXT who they gave her the coffin drop, but she had no idea how to safely.
Lash Legend? Wasn't
No,
Lash Legend?
Thea Hale. She won the
Yeah.
North American belt on a botch
Yeah,
because
she was
crushed.
jumping straight up in the air, getting like 10 feet of air, and it's like that's not how you do the coffin drop.
Yeah, and
Unless
then
you want to
like
die, and then she ended up. And of course, they missed her coming down on the ground. She ended up laying right down on the concrete.
yeah, and then like we talk about even like veterans because Cody and we talked about it's like Cody and Punk they did a Doomsday device, and instead of like doing the flat back bump, Cody tried to flip Braun and Braun ended up like just landing on his dome, like it. Pro wrestling itself, okay. Pro wrestling itself is a dangerous endeavor. You never know what's gonna happen, how guys fall.
I mean, I think that there is no argument, right, to me,
Yeah.
that that the system that they use for training is not a system that I really kind of like. I do think that hopefully, like, because I think the system where they use in Japan, where you have the dojos where people go out and get practical training and work out and work safely and work with vets. And obviously, when you look at the matches, they may look more dangerous, but a lot like when you watch, like, say, for example, one of the things I love about when you watch like Joshi or you watch one of these Japanese shows is like they have the attendants on the side of the ring, right? So when they're doing these bumps, there are people who kind of like are there to just break the fall. And it's part of like I think AEW has smartly done that in some of the matches too, where you start. And I think
the seconds
the luchadors and the Yoshis. The seconds are there, and you get people there, and you have people who help. And again, this is in a session. This is almost like a stage production, and you want to make sure that you work safely and that the spots that you're doing are not spots that are outside of your training. And my problem with WWE is that I see a lot of spots that when I see them, I know that the person doing them doesn't know what the hell they're doing, right?
Yeah,
see, that's a good point. That's something I see. People were so angry about the plate glass spot with Darby in the Sting retirement match. And I'm like, he's done this bump 100 times. They had people set him up, but they're going to throw Ridge Holland out there, who has not the and decide, what, we're going to have him do this floor bump all the time, and we're going to make him do it even though he doesn't have the experience, and then we're going to have him do it to our champion. It's like with Big E, and it's like I think Ridge was the one that.
Yeah, Ridge Holland was the one. See, the problem with that, it's a technique style, because a lot of in pro wrestling, I say this because I'm coming in here with a background. I talked to JD Oliva, great wrestling coach, great wrestling podcast. Listen to Mike and JD every Sunday. So he talked about the technique on that.
Man. I love Mike and JD.
I love Mike and JD, friend of the show. So Ridge Holland, right?
I didn't know you did judo either. I used to do judo. So.
Oh yeah, I did judo. I did wrestling. Man. I did jujitsu. I competed in catch wrestling tournaments. So anyway, on that throw, right? So Ridge throws him with arms, because in pro wrestling you see a lot of guys just use arms to toss people. Even like Claudio is like a guy who just uses his arms, but Claudio's a freak of nature. The problem with Ridge Holland and Big E is they're built so low to the ground, and instead of getting his hips under Big E, which you need to do, he tried to just like arm throw him, and that's why when he fell back, Big E landed on the top of his neck and broke his neck.
Yeah.
It's a lot of these wrestlers are doing things they shouldn't be doing. Like Ridge Holland, I'm sure he's a strong guy. I'm sure he's used to throwing those smaller guys in NXT. But that's NXT. This is main roster. This is Big E, one of your big champions.
What makes you think who in WWE can do that spot and can train him on that spot?
There's only a couple guys who can actually do it, but they're.
I think doing that spot with Big E. I trust Claudio to do it.
It'll be Claudio. That's it. Maybe Braun Breaker.
I probably trust Morto. If Morto says he can do it, I trust he can do it. If like Hechicero told me he could do it, I would trust Hechicero if he says he can do it.
Because like it's very few and far between in WWE when you think of a
Bandito, maybe, right? He would have to like it has to be somebody who has like insane strength and training in terms of catching and basing.
Yeah.
I might trust Okada with that spot, maybe.
Yeah, because you gotta. the guy, when you have the technique, because BJ, so you do judo, right? So when you're tossing somebody,
I did, not anymore.
So when you're tossing somebody, right, you have to get your hips under them, and it's not about
Popping
like
the
spike.
hips, yes.
Yeah, pop the hips. You gotta make sure your hips are under their hips, and when you're tossing them, you're gonna lose points in the match if you spike them on your heads. You lose points.
Yes.
That's not good technique. On here, on that spot, they're like what you're saying. People are not qualified to do these spots because they're not trained to do them in this safe way. Whereas like Biggie did all he could to get over on that throw, but the way he was held and the way that he was guided into the mat, that's not something like not you don't see this. Even though the Steiners are throwing guys like whatever, they're guiding them so they're not really dropping in a way where they get killed.
Yeah. And
Like-
even then, I mean, you're talking at two of the best that ever done that. They
Yeah.
don't nail it every single time either.
Yeah,
You
sometimes
know?
the people would land on their heads.
Yeah.
I mean, shit
I mean, like,
happens.
by the way, my list already was like Orton, Cena, Edge, Soraya, Bryan, Sheamus, Rusev, Angle, Jason Jordan, Stone Cold, Big E, KO, Strowman, Nikki Bella. Hardcore Holly.
Shame about Jason Jordan. That guy, he had something there.
I mean, the point I'm making is like I wish, right? I do think that like again, I think the older WWE, and again, we may bitch about Vince, but there are things he did right. He did ban moves when they were unsafe, right? He would ban like if
he banned them because of the league. He didn't ban them because they were unsafe. He banned them because of the Benoit fallout.
Oh well, I mean,
Then
not. I mean, I think.
I mean,
he banned the 450 and the shooting star
I
press
emailed
because
Michael and Law about this.
I mean, I think
writing daily about it. It was.
I think we should. I think we need to go back to having a list of moves that like people need to be cleared for, right? I think that like that's kind of really important.
flying head.
And I think there's like, and I think that WWE has, because of the fact that I think they want to compete with some of the other products, they're clearing people to do moves that people are not qualified to, right? And I think that ultimately is very dangerous and has led to them having a demonstrable pattern of the top guys getting hurt, right? It doesn't mean that other guys in other companies aren't getting hurt, right? But I'm not watching, like when I watch some of these matches in some of these other companies, I am not thinking that like, oh my God, that person's gonna land on the concrete. And I when I occasionally catch an NXT show, or I occasionally catch a women's match, or I occasionally catch like some of these WWE matches, I will see some things that I'm like, wow, what in the world, right? And again, like what I'm paying attention is like, again, people have to think about this. Like when you watch Lucha, when you watch Joshi, when you watch these matches, people take these dives, right? I'll watch death matches, I'll watch like DDT, I'll watch Dragon Gate, I'll watch like Tokyo Joshi Pro, I'll watch and people take these crazy dives, but like I never feel
that, you know, because like Penta worked Solo Sikoa, right? And and Solo couldn't catch him for that Hurricane Rana, which is like a basic bump, and Penta ended up, you know, hurting his shoulder.
I mean, I think that was. I mean, I think part of the problem, as much as I think the whole joke about like, BJ, have you seen the meme with like the Bandito push and the Lucha Brothers?
No.
Like it's this Mexican meme. It's like Bandito's like the kid, and he doesn't want any more push. He doesn't want any more food. And then like the Lucha Brothers are like the two kids on the street who have no food. And maybe they'll give us a little push tonight. But I think part of and but the point is that I think part of the issue with the luchadors, right, in WWE is what I'm saying. Like they don't have anybody, like they don't know how to agent it safely, and they don't have anybody to catch it. So when you put these guys out there, it's kind of like really hard for them to work. And it's been kind of funny that like one of the solutions has been like to get like the really good workers and turn them into that Americano stable, because again, like I think that works a little bit.
Yeah,
because obviously it's a very heel gimmick.
You'd think owning a storied lucha company would help solve some of these issues, but
I mean,
do think they're starting
those guys
that,
the guys that they are sending to AAA, like Jack Cartwheel, like Igor Blanc. I think he has a new name now. These are guys who've been working forever, and then working lucha style is perfectly the luchador guys, right? There's this difference when Dominic works lucha with guys who can work lucha, where he's not taking like stutter steps and like, okay, I gotta hit my move like this. He's just going go go go.
Yeah, it's funny. I may need to apologize to.
What do you think? What do you think of Dominic as a worker?
I used to
Both
joke.
of you.
I used to joke with Dominic. I used to call his finisher the 2.5-star frog splash. Um,
Hey man, I
and I think, and I'm gonna apologize to him a little bit because I do think Doc has a great point, which is I think some of what was happening is I think some of, again, his training. He's training with some world class guys. I'm not saying he's a
yeah
great worker. But he's fine when he's working with guys who know how to work. It's the thing that happens with the Joshis, where like you can tell the Yoshis in WWE a lot of time are working at like 25% speed, right? So
Yeah,
like
yeah
because they're like working with this person, they're
because
like because it's been drilled into their head
they
to
got to
work
get the
safely.
fit. They got to get the fitness model.
Well, no,
yeah
but they also they also work safely. Like they ultimately the thing
Yes.
that they teach in the dojos is work safely. The person cannot go the speed; they slow down. I think Dom does that too, right?
yeah
It's been
because
drilled
when I
into him.
see the
And
match with Vikingo, when I see the match that he has with Dragon Lee and Laredo Kid, like in AAA in like Arena Monterrey, like when I see him hit the ropes, and I see him hit his 619 and frog splash, and I see him getting the heat from the not
and
heat from the crowd. He's working as a
he's a decent,
face. It's so
he's a decent,
he's a
he's weirdly a
natural.
decent little, he's a decent little bass too. He's not great,
Yeah,
but he's not bad. I mean, like he does enough. Particularly, again, I was saying this with Aaron Wolf. Like all you need to you need to sell, you need to have a connection with a crowd, and you need to have like a decent enough looking finisher for the comeback, and it can
yeah,
work. And I think yeah, I mean, I think it kind of works there. And I think one of the problems is are you like there's a thing called institute like the problem with admitting that the PC is doing a bad job at training people for what you need is that then what is the point of the PC, right?
yeah.
So I think
I'm
that
still thinking
institutionally,
they might shut that down, especially
yeah,
when
but I
they
think
try to move everyone to
institutionally
Vegas.
it's gonna be really hard for them to have that come to Jesus moment where they do that, because I think the smarter play for them is to start sending talent over to Mexico and get them kind of seasoned, and
Brother,
that you bought these
One
promotions.
thing I have
What they
heard
tell
is
Mano,
one
they were doing that in
the
the
follow up on
90s.
this. The one thing that I have heard is that with the the WWE ID independent deal, it's gonna fold away, and it's just gonna end up with guys that instead of them ending up as working indies with WWE ID contracts, they'll end up in AAA and TNA.
I mean,
Which,
I've said this for a while that the whole point of and I've explained the whole way. So the way the salary works in this kind of company is you have a fixed salary budget, but if you're bringing in talent that's under contract in TNA and in AAA, that is not falling under the salary budget line. So
yeah,
if Triple H gets a fixed salary budget, he can expense stuff out, right? So if
yeah,
the show's making money, he can hire some temp workers that are not on his fixed salary budget. We're coming in from TNA, we're coming in from AAA, and that's the way he manages his budget. So I always thought that one of the advantages for the whole AAA and TNA thing was what you're saying. It's like, yeah, we can basically use it as a way to manage the budget, right? Because like I can't like this is the same reason why I think Roman's contract might be in trouble is like because how does Triple H justify that contract if that contract, if I've got this much money to spend on wrestlers and this guy doesn't work mains, how do I justify paying him like if this guy if I can't it's the same thing as basketball. If I can't play this guy in the finals, how do I justify spending 25% of my salary on him, right?
yeah.
Well, the thing is, you could just, Roman's justification would be, look what I draw, like what
Does
the
he?
shows have done with
Does he
me on
draw?
top.
Does
He
he?
Well,
hasn't.
I tell you what,
They,
other than his big return where he came out and saved Cody and went after the bloodline, I have not seen
They don't.
anything where
Again, I'm talking about when they need a house. Do they call him or do they call Cody? Do they
they
call
called
him or do
AJ
they
Lee.
call or they call Punk? Do they call him or do
they
they call
call
Punk's
AJ
wife?
Lee.
Right? Do they call him or do they call Brock? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
they call him
It's
or they call Dom. Right?
it's
Well, they ain't calling
something.
Brock anymore. I think Brock's
Yeah.
drawing days are over
They,
as they
I,
found
I mean,
out
like
the hard
I
way.
think at this point, for this, I already see that if you watched UFC over the last like 15 years, I mean over the last yeah, about the last 10 years, you see what the TKO
yeah. I mean, like
messaging
that's
is.
part of what I'm coming from. It's like they're not gonna pay you to pay you. They're gonna like again like
Yeah.
it's if you're there like salaries contracts are for earners, right? And it's just I think the way it's gonna work. I mean, I think again like getting back to the principal point is, I do think it's bad that WWE has a tendency to put people to do spots that they can't agent and they can't work. And I mean, I think the other problem they have, and I mean, this is a separate problem, and it's something like the Julia situation, where like they don't know how to book outside of a very rigid pattern. But this has always been a WWE thing. They book in a very specific way, and they've lost like Julia as a person that should be working like Sergeant Slaughter used to work in WWE, right?
Yes.
Which
But
is
they don't know how to do it.
Sergeant Slaughter and Bruno Sammartino, like the two people. She should be working like Bruno, and she should be working like, which is bad. You're working a brawling style. She's working again. We talked about it, the Lawler style.
Yeah.
Like she's got to sell. She's got to brawl. She's got to get comeback.
But they put her in there with
girl.
Zelina. They put her in there with Chelsea Green, who are two people who are not going to be able to work that style.
But they don't know how to maximize like how these people. And
Well,
they also kind of like
they see her ethnicity and think that there's no way they should book her as a brawler because she's not.
Right.
You
I mean,
know.
like,
Yeah,
And it's
she's
like,
too
okay,
pretty to
apparently
fight that way.
Apparently, they've never seen Ishii or Suzuki or or
I mean, I think
I
ultimately, I think
like they have Asuka and Io on that in that roster. Like, how are you not following the same pattern that you had with Io and with Asuka?
but
like,
she's not that style of worker. She's more of a mock style. She's the style of work that she does.
Yeah.
It's a style that company always like. The same thing happened with Moxley. They didn't let him work the style he wanted to work, right?
Yeah, the walk
Because
and
again,
roll.
ultimately, it's a style that like I mean I've heard that the Booker is not a fan of like the Bruiser Bodys and the Wildman styles, the guys who are brawlers. That's not his thing that he likes, right?
Oh yeah, he called that. I believe he called that on a WWE DVD.
I believe
hardcore
he's
bullshit.
He's not a fan of Terry Funk, right? Like that's not his thing. No, he's
Triple H is not a fan of Terry Funk.
Yes, that's not his style that he likes, right?
What an asshole!
Well, I mean, it's just again, we have preference. Like
imagine not liking Terry Funk.
I mean, again, the point being that like effectively,
But Triple H was a brawler. Like basically, he couldn't do anything else once he got so juiced up. So they would brawl. I mean,
oh god, somebody was explaining somebody was saying that basically everything that he did was worked around like letting. It's are you familiar with the face that you can't powerbomb Billy Kidman?
Yes.
Which is like basically like, well, it's the same thing. Like basically, how do you maneuver the person into taking the pedigree, right? Like or like getting hit by China or whoever his ballet is. So all his matches are like that, right? Everything's built around
formulaic.
That, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very formulaic. What's he like? Oh, so it's explained. I was like, oh my god.
They
I was
start
like, oh, you're right.
off. There's some basic heel bullshit. They end up outside, hitting, punching each other, throwing over the guardrails.
If
Someone
he's
gets
feeling,
an advantage. They get back into the ring.
Man. Yeah,
I mean, I think
he had great guys like Benoit, Shawn Michaels to work around his limitations.
I think long term the problem for WWE is going to be that I think that they're very limited in style, and the style that they are working, they're not training people properly for.
Yeah.
So it's gonna like, it's and I've said this at some point it's gonna like the older guys who are the mechanics in that company are not going to be able to. They're just like the bodies are not going to hold up anymore. And they need to start getting people who can work, and they need to start getting people who can freaking agent a modern style, right?
Yeah.
And
young Master Arturo, you're besmirching the World Wrestling Entertainment.
No, I mean, like, I'm just kind of, again, I'm looking.
I mean, they got guys. I think Abyss, Jamie Noble, and Adam Priest. Those guys can.
Yeah, Adam Priest, like
those guys are very good at producing and agenting that style. But like you said, like. Tiff Stratton Stratton comes in and she's coming straight out of college. She does really well in NXT. She comes up, but it's like she gets over because of looks and athleticism. But once you get below that, it's like, okay, can you really work?
You're
asking
these women. You're asking these women to work like Darby Allin or to work like Dorada, and you do not have
or even like Sasha Banks or Bayley.
Sasha is insane, right? Sasha, like people should not because she is unique in how that and again, she would also like figure out a way to get people to catch her. And I think that like that's part of the point to me is that they need to figure out a way to like it's fine if you're going to bring in like these more fitness models and more like non-workers into the company. you need to figure out a way to get people trained in Mexico to base, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Hey
somewhere, because
guys.
effectively you need the
Hey
guys
guys.
to work safely. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this, and we've been gloating about stuff like we've been right on, like we've been hitting on stuff like for the past year that we've sort of predicted and that it did happen. And so like throughout this whole thing is, if you watch what's happening, you can sort of see what's gonna happen. And whether that be in pro wrestling or in business, I think just keeping tabs on something and just being aware of it, it sort of tells you the direction of these companies. It tells you kind of the direction of these mergers. It kind of tells you the direction of where these pushes are coming. And my question for you guys is, for 2026, what do you see, like, what is one big thing happening in 2026 as a story that you think will kind of like break over this, the next year?
Let's say, Arturo, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I mean, I already gave the Roman thing. I think it's going to be kind of a big thing. I think that the other part is going to be that I think that WWE is kind of like on the cusp of a downturn. It's been coming, and I'm really interested to see what their numbers are going to look like this year, and I'm really interested to see how TKO is going to react. I also have said that it's suspicious to me that TKO hasn't settled some of these lawsuits that are out there, and I suspect that like they may not want to stay in the WWE business long term. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think that's in play.
Hey BJ, have they released any ESPN Unlimited numbers for WWE shows?
Not that I know of. I've heard a few just through listening to Meltzer and other things like that. I haven't picked up any numbers. They okay. To give you just a short explanation, when I did the story on the AEW numbers on Max like almost a year ago, I went over how difficult it was to get those numbers. Disney is even more fanatical about keeping those numbers secret. I know multiple people who work at Disney or ABC or ESPN in various duties, and they have no clue. And the one thing I can say is that they just do not view they are kind of pissed. I mean, ESPN people are pissed off they even have them on that part.
You can hear it on the broadcast.
Yes, they are. They are pissed off. It's like, why are we paying him to be on air? And the reason is because this was a deal done way above ESPN. This was done at the top of Disney, and it involved Ari Emanuel and Bob Iger and guys at that level. It was kind of a favor, and it's not panning out exactly at all how it was planned, and that's why you see this lawsuit that popped up this week.
I've said that the entire thing was, from the Disney side, was a part of a ploy to strong arm carriage fees out of the cable providers, right? I think it's somewhat it backfired, because effectively what ended up happening, which is what I said was going to happen from the go, is essentially like the cable carriers took a look at this. It's like, why the hell would we do that? And we're not gonna pay for that for free.
Their assumptions were going into this was that the cable providers would be jumping for it, and they are not. In fact, and if you look at the deal they signed with YouTube TV, there's no guarantee that's going to even be a thing that happens with them until the end of the year.
Well, I mean,
until December.
What I said to people was like ESPN, like they were basically trying to strong arm them, like they did with the Monday Night Football, so that like the cable providers would come in at a higher number for everything. And what the cable providers ended up doing is like, yeah, we'll make it available, but we'll make it available at a higher tier. We're not grouping this thing with like the basic service, right? And so it backfired on them completely. And then essentially, like the value proposition for ESPN was forcing the higher carriage fee for Disney, and it really kind of did not work out great. So now we're in this thing where like the shows are sold. Like from WWE's perspective, the shows are sold, right?
Yes.
As far as I can tell, the shows are sold in the US, and they don't get any extra money for extra pay-per-view buys in the US, right?
Yeah.
So there's a saying in Spanish that says "músico pago no toca," which means like a musician who's paid does not play, right? So it's definitely that you don't pay them. So effectively, that's how you get things like just Stephanie McMahon coming out and saying like, "Oh, hey, you should use a VPN," because they do get a benefit from people watching on Netflix, right?
God, that was
And so
and
BJ,
I'll tell you what. I'll drop something here that somebody to surprise people, but the YouTube TV reaction to ESPN was really bad. Basically, they doubled their rates to get ESPN on YouTube TV. It wasn't. Then they just kept wanting to up them. And I know at one point they were exploring looking at purchasing. This was something I was told was that they were. I was told by somebody who was close to the situation that they would not be surprised if they went after TNT Sports and that kind of production just to get a base of a sports program started to start running against them. And I wouldn't surprise me if you start seeing more things like that, just because of ESPN's trying to bring back that carriage money. It's not happening, and at the same time, you got these people, you got streamers and other cable nets that just were burned for years on these carriage fees, and it's just they don't want to go back to that world. And but yeah, what was your question? Just what my predictions were.
Thank you so much for dropping that bomb on us, BJ. I appreciate it when you.
I mean, it was just that was just supposedly they were considering. Okay, what's our options in the sporting world if we wanted to like just boot ESPN, drop our rates, and that was one analyst said that he could see that as a possibility. Now, as far as 2026 is concerned, I think you're going to see a settlement in the Janelle Grant lawsuit. I don't know how that's going to come about, but I think you will, just because at this stage of the lawsuit, I don't. If when they get the mediation on if they get the hearing, the motion hearing for to do the mediation through the whatever side that goes, whoever wins that's going to have a lot of leverage. So if they want to get to a settlement, it will have to happen in this rate. It's gone a long time. There has not been an update to the docket on the Grant suit since July 1st. So I'm guessing that that's probably under discussion, and I don't think it's probably. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE's side of this and Vince's side are offering different things and are happy with what the other is offering. But I think that you will probably see Janelle Grant get something.
It's under discussed that the reason that breakup happened was essentially that like Ari was mad that Vince didn't pay her, essentially. Or at least that's been the rumor I've heard, that essentially like Ari was like, why didn't you just pay her, right? Like what you put.
Well, that's because he's never paid any of them. I mean, except for the ones that came up, depending on if it's people that were low level, he did this shit all the time. This was regular behavior for him not to pay his NDAs.
Up to a point. I mean, I think he has paid certain people.
Yeah, he's paid certain people if he valued him as a star. He really
right. I mean, I think. Well, I mean, like essentially,
people he thought he could legally, but people he thought he could legally bully, he's pulled this stunt before.
Right, and
he gives one payment and then he finds a reason. I'm just not going to pay you the rest.
I think.
That was a regular Vince behavior.
Again, the relationship with Ari and Vince goes back, right? I think it wasn't Ari's agent at one point. I want to I don't know what I think that, but like the point being, like I think in this particular scenario, it's always about the risk. So in the middle of what they were trying to do, him kind of not just pay the woman and make this go away is, I think, again, like that was a bit of like why. I mean, again, obviously it's like, but this is what broke the relationship. Where I think Ari was probably like, I mean, we've seen it in some of the court filings that I think they were on Vince's side. But I think basically they're mad that Vince didn't take care of business in this particular case.
Well, what he did was the thing is that behavior in the past, it was WWE. He owned the company. He could do whatever he wanted. And that's one reason why a lot of people thought this would eventually go Rico, was because of just how he entangled WWE in everything that he did.
Because he was supposed to...
This is going back to the most confirmed case that we have is 1986, and you have him getting away with it for decades, so he's not going to see that as a risk at this point. It's just a matter of fact he gets away with. I'm deciding I'm going to not honor my NDA and not pay the money on it. Then I'm just not going to do it. I don't think he did that with all of them, depending on who the star level was, but he did that before. But I think also in 2026, I think you'll see some crack up between Cody Rhodes and WWE. I think that I just think that WWE's always had a history of with their top big drawing baby faces of having issues. I think that could happen.
I mean, I
I
think
think,
the thing with him is he's got an
We're
extension
seeing
through
that happen
when.
right now.
yeah.
I mean, I think they're gonna. I mean, I think he's extended, and
When was his last extension?
2024.
I think he's got a
Okay.
3 year through 2027, right?
So
I think.
he's wow.
You know who else has a contract up in 2027? Matthew and Nicholas, and one Kenny Omega, and one
Ooh,
Hangman
that's
Page.
true. That's very interesting. They almost went to WWE last time too. I think at one point they were leaning hard that way, almost 90%.
Imagine those
That was
five
right
being
after-
available
that was
in
right after.
2027.
I think you would not be surprised either if the Elite were to retire in 2027.
Yeah.
The Bucks have said this is going to be their last big babyface run. So
I mean,
Cody also
think
said
that's
he
what I
wanted to
predict.
retire early too. I think that's what something Cody said.
I
And
wouldn't
Kenny's
be
talking about his
surprised-
last big run. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Kenny winds up in Japan at some point again.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they all ended up there.
I think, and I wouldn't be surprised as well if your friend the Bucks like want to start a promotion up in the West Coast. I think that's probably not. Also, I mean, I think these guys have interests, right? I think like Kenny in particular.
I'm gonna drop just like a little bit of this because there was this big rumor last year that they wanted to buy the PWG licenses and all the IPs that come with it. We'll talk a little bit about that off the air, but like it's just something that's popped up is their interest in building the California independent scene again. Which
I think both Kenny and the Bucks are probably I could see them walking away from full-time like big American TV and then maybe doing something where like maybe he's an appearance base and he's working because I do again like they enjoy the promotion and the build side of it and I think they probably think that they probably made enough money and they're doing it for the art a little bit, right? So
I mean,
those five coming
that last contract they signed was huge.
Yeah.
The last one, because they all go in four together. They make a decision where they're going to go together, and then they work that out. And that basically took care of their grandkids. But one thing I do think one thing that you get to give credence to what you guys are talking about is that when they talked about going back to Japan and working and getting the IWGP heavy tags for a bit, they described that as some of the best, most fun, and most enjoyment they've had in wrestling in like a long, long time.
I mean, I think one of the blockers, and it's a really interesting that Okada interview where he was talking about like how people feel about the order of Bushiroad, and I think
I missed this. What did he say?
Yeah, he went at it. He basically like he's kind of communicating. Supposedly he was channeling all the boys' feelings and how like they really don't like what's his name? I forget. Yeah, they don't like him, and there's a whole kind of
Mage, was it?
Yeah, there's a whole kind of conflict around that, and I think
the Harold Mage stuff was terrible. The Dakota Ibushi stuff, and then
he was saying that basically Okada was saying basically nobody thanked him after the match, and he was kind of offended and kind of like
was this on like this week, like the time?
Yeah. He dropped the interview because I'd actually been speculating, like I've been thinking about like I always thought that Okada,
people were kind of saying like work, but then like. I don't know if you want to talk about your partner like that.
I think the thing with Okada is I always expect him to go back because him and his wife are probably wanting to do the talk show circuit in Japan at some point down the line. Yeah. So I do think that he's a huge
TV star over there.
Yes, she's a big idol.
Also in 2027, Okada's contract will be up.
Yeah, but then I saw the interview and I was like, oh, and I think like there's heat there. There's heat with Naito. So like Japan is a really interesting because I think again Kenny and the Bucks, and I think Kenny would maybe open to doing that like down the line. But again, like if people are all mad at like The Office, then that does actually kind of like make it like really interesting because like what he's gonna go maybe he goes back to DDT. I don't know.
I would love to see I would love to see Okada work Dragon Gate. Go to Senor Dragon. Set that up.
I'm gonna say, I also think you're gonna see. I think WWE is probably gonna have issues with at least one of its TV partners. I think that's gonna start, which that's not like a huge surprise. We've talked about that.
BJ, the sky is blue. No, something goes.
Yeah.
No. Which, by the way, which one? That's an interesting question.
Oh, what's funny? Because like last week we did this whole bit on like what WWE lawsuit were we talking about?
Yeah, we're like which
and
no, but I mean like again, I think the one most likely partner, and I've been saying is I think this WrestleMania on ESPN is just. I'm dying to see what that looks like because this is just like the most ill-planned thing I've ever seen. It's going on against the playoffs of the NBA. So that's
what's crazy, right? So Royal Rumble is usually one of the biggest tentpole events for WWE, right? And so they've showed like what they're building, like a fake arena. They're just building like a viewing place. It kind of looks like a high school football field, and they're just building it in the middle of the desert. I'm not sure why they're not using one of their stadiums that they already built.
I'm sure it's being built by fully ethical labor too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So what's going on?
They're building the Saudis are building a brand new arena and they're like in a rush, kind of like how when they were building those Qatar arenas for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And so they're building like a brand new specific arena for this. Like, and
I think it was you that said this. It was maybe. I don't know if it was your Arturo or somebody else that told me this. They said keep an eye on WWE and NFL stadiums and see if they're getting in any more NFL stadiums.
Yeah, I mean, I think I may mention. It sounds a little bit like me when I said like so like obviously long term. One of the subplots is that like how they're like when they go to the UK, they don't get the really big buildings of the soccer stadiums. Yeah. And I think the reason is because like
partnerships.
The cons are on the short list for buying Wembley when they basically like they in case of emergency, Wembley, which is the big stadium in the UK, when they were looking to sell, the person they talked to was Shad Khan, and he's on the short list for doing that. He also owns Tottenham. And he also is the partner for all the.
I thought he owned Fulham.
Sorry, you're right. He owns Fulham, and he has the Craven Cottage, which is a stadium, brand new in London, one of the big stadiums in London. He also runs all the. I said because they run the NFL games in Tottenham too. So essentially, like they run the NFL games in all the Jaguar games. So they're like the team that's. If there was going to be a London team, it would probably be the Jaguars. Jacksonville fans are going to get mad at me. But Tony has a lot of pull there, and I think like Tony and Sean haven't like really kind of like asserted any pull from the NFL side, but that might be something that changes, right? I think that's probably where that's coming from.
Especially because of the odd relationship TKO has with these big football stadiums. I haven't really seen like UFC run anything beyond the T-Mobile in Vegas. They haven't really.
I mean, I think. Again, the point being that like it some of this is like it's like when Tony was talking about how like he almost ran the first Dynamite in MSG, like that whole story about that, and then like somebody got fired for that, and the stadium relationships going back, there's a whole very lurid history around that, and I do think that like there's the possibility that like AEW will flex the most. Like people kind of forget that like the Cons are an extremely exclusive club, right? Yeah. Like when you're an NFL owner, you're not just.
So that's the thing that always cracks me up listening to like the Bischoffs and
they're gonna run out of money.
Agent dipshit talk about Tony Khan. I'm like, you realize this guy owns,
like go look at the earnings of
they
Flex
can buy and sell you.
Like the auto parts company. Go look at the earnings. Like they
they build most of the build most of the car bumpers for every.
Yeah, they're like the amount of cash that the Cons generate, right?
I mean, if Tony wanted to like broadcast AEW on a YouTube channel,
he could buy
and have the matches in his backyard.
There's nothing stopping Tony from buying Versant in like 6 months on the line.
I mean, they don't have enough cash on hand to do that, but they could definitely be leading a partnership.
Shad does. That's again, true, like the amount of money that like the thing is like what happens at this level, right? This is what people don't understand. Like so, sports ownership, right? Owning like the Giants or something, or like the teams that like guys who out go and buy these teams. The billionaires are people who have all this money. Like they have this cash coming in, and they need a tax shelter. They need something to put the money in that can basically like act as a taxes. Like it's essentially if you own an NFL team, right?
Yeah.
It's because you have a lot of cash flow, right? And you're looking for different investments. Like, and they've bought like they've done a good job at Fulham. They've done a good job at the Jaguars. Tony started a
AEW.
$1 billion business out of like scratch. So it's not a situation where like they like Tony. Again, as I said, like they could probably like again. I'm assuming these linear networks like Burstline like are going to go down in price. And if you wanted to go out and like buy TNT or something at some point down the line, you probably could, right? Because again, how much is going to spend on it? I mean, it's like again, I'm talking a year down the line,
That price exactly right now is why Paramount didn't get lost all of its mojo with Zaslav.
Hey, you guys, so Versat launched right last week or 2 weeks ago. Their stock price is very down. It wasn't like a successful launch, but what that does also is it emboldens WBD to go forward with that split of Warner Brothers and Discovery to have the cable channels on that thing. It makes it more.
I've explained this a couple times. The entire reason to split off with the debt, right? In a way, also, I mean, like they're resetting the company, but also you understand that these assets are going to devalue, right? So these assets are going to go to a floor, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise to me that they're going to go and you can reorganize the company and get it to work successfully, probably, but effectively, I wouldn't be surprised if down the line these company streamers come back and buy the linear networks once they bleed off the debt and some of the odds.
I think that's highly likely. Yeah. I think it's highly likely.
Right. It's essentially this is a maneuver. Like they're saying, like, look, we're going to sell this out, but then we might come back and buy these for parts like later, right? Because as I said, eventually, I think the assets have a lot of value as it's the eyeballs. It's basically like the advertising, right? So I'm putting my content in front of you so that content appreciates over time, right? So there is value in having that store. It's like having the front of the supermarket where they put like the fancy stuff that's all on special. This is the value of having like the linear networks. And I think again, like you have to clear some of the old debt and some of the old bad decisions. But once that happens, I do think like you can see these people sweep back and actually.
Absolutely, man. And I want to thank you, BJ, for coming here on State of Wrestling. It's always a joy to have you here.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate talking to both of you a lot.
Yeah. Building this like as a show and having people like you, BJ, sort of like legitimizes us, and I'm so happy to have you on here. Just just talking with you, just talking as friends. It's been one of my favorite things to have met you and talk to you and build this relationship up. Arturo has been one of my good friends for like the last couple of years, and like honestly, like this rules every time we get to do it. I want to thank you for coming on here and dropping that.
You
knowledge,
say that, but then when the Bengals or the Red Sox do something really stupid, then I'm going to come on and just turn everything into a rave about the Bengals or the Red Sox.
Hey, man.
Then you'll be like, why am I?
That's perfectly fine for me, man. I'm a Dodgers and I'm a 49ers guy. I'm like holding on to hope that they win later today.
What are you talking about? The Dodgers have basically bought baseball.
I know they bought their world title. They're fine. The 49ers though have me on pins and needles. Yeah, I think Arturo's told me many times that Dodgers have ruined baseball. It's
not me. I have like I mean again,
not you.
That's not what's ruined. That's not what ruined baseball.
Well, the thing is
don't confuse me with Joe Lanza, man.
Oh God.
Why is the Rolling Stones trending? Oh, Mick Taylor's birthday.
Oh,
yeah. It's like,
you got me a little bit nervous
scared
there.
for a second.
I was. Are we off the air?
No, we're about to go off. BJ, right, where can people find you?
You can find me on my Substack. The name of which escapes me at the moment because I'm really tired.
You can find him on BJ Bethel tweets.
I got my podcast, BJ interviews anyone. I'm working on an interview with Amanda Moore, but she's kind of in combat right now in Minnesota. A lot of her work's been picked up by Reuters, AP, and she's been doing live work for us. she's been doing live video stuff for Mother Jones, and I would encourage you to go to her Substack. I would also encourage you to follow you on her on Twitter and Blue Sky, especially Blue Sky. And
Yeah.
she's just one of the few the written journalists that are actually following this stuff step by step, because it's just really dangerous to do it. But she's one of the most courageous journalists I know, and instead of promoting my stuff, I think it's more important to promote Amanda's at this time. But her Substack's called the Turtle Diaries. Their subscription $6 a month, and then you can hand out some free 30-day trials as part of that. Her writing's amazing. She went undercover with the far right for about a year or so, a few years back. She's had, I mean, a lot of the stuff that you're reading about now, stuff that she was writing about 3-4 years ago. And I think she's probably one of the most forward thinking. She's pretty much America's roving correspondent right now in that Hitchens mode. And I think
Man.
she's definitely somebody to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So if you care about that kind of journalism, if you want to read it from that side, I think anybody, no matter your party affiliation, this is something you definitely want to jump into. But thanks for having me, guys. Arturo, you're great every day, and Doc, you're awesome. Thanks for having me on again.
It's
Yeah,
always fun.
man.
We always go places that I don't
Yeah.
expect. Right? It's
Absolutely
always
love it. Absolutely love it, man. Thank you so much, BJ.
Been dreaming of you.